The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Come own the night with us. Stationed atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
And this is part 2 of tonight's show. You know, I don't know what it is about my broadcast computer lately, but it has been absolutely screwing up. I have no idea why it is causing me the pain in the butt that it is, but 'tis the life of internet radio, which is what we are trying to improve here quickly and efficiently. Let's see if we can get it done, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so. Hey, why not? We can all dream. It's Christmas, am I right? So right before we got rudely interrupted by my computer deciding to crash again, which I'm definitely going to have to, check out. See if I got any bugs on there, because this is becoming a little bit of a pain in the butt. But the main thing that we were getting into with Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers, and we bring Tim Doyle back in here, was whether or not a soft disclosure did happen. I say it did. Tim says it didn't. But he does have a nice goatee. So, I mean, that does give some credence to his argument. Tim, welcome back.
Thank you, buddy.
Not a problem. You know, I don't know why all of a sudden my computer has been starting to do this. You know, I don't have any files on here whatsoever. I'm going to have to do one of them virus checks just to make sure.
Exactly.
It's just frustrating.
Use one of the programs with the white list, not the black list.
Yes. You know, but it does make for a good story. When one of our listeners, Ron Moniak, actually sent me a brand new box of aluminum tinfoil for Christmas today. So I'm wondering now if I got to make myself a new tinfoil hat, just in case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Anyhow, the Pentagon. We were getting into the Pentagon right off the bat. You don't believe, and you were right in the middle of explaining, you don't believe this is any sort of disclosure whatsoever when it comes to the information that was released this weekend from the New York Times and Washington Post. Why is that again?
Well, it was released that Harry Reid, a known socialist, a big government guy who supports huge spending and supposedly I'm for the poor, I'm for the middle class type thing, actually gave a $22 million grant to a billionaire to fund his hobby, and the name is Bigelow Aerospace, and that was kind of the hobby of this Bigelow gentleman. And that's what we have here. I mean, we just have a politician who gave a $1 million grant to his best buddy, and, what do you know? This is who Tom DeLonge was having secret meetings with out in the desert, is just Harry Reid, a Democrat politician. And don't get me wrong, maybe Tom DeLonge's heart is in the right place, but I'm pretty sure that what we're witnessing is just a collection of political operatives. Leslie Keane was just on Open Mind Radio bashing Donald Trump. Tom DeLonge on Saturday was bashing Donald Trump, and Harry Reid is a known Donald Trump hater. So, I think unfortunately for a lot of people outside of the United States that they're not understanding that a lot of what we're seeing is just kind of like political operatives making a move inside a community to try to buy votes in elections, and it starts with John Podesta, a liberal socialist. I mean, all these guys are the same people, big government people who want more people. They're against freedom, they hate freedom, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, and it's amazing. I still don't understand why the media is calling it a government program when it was actually a study. So I don't think that these from what I read in the New York Times article, the Bigelow gentleman had buildings in Las Vegas where he would analyze these sightings or these so-called materials, which never says alien. Anybody ever claims that they're alien. It's only Luis himself, the gentleman who supposedly ran this program, even though I didn't see any mention of him meeting with like Harry Reid or setting all this stuff up. Supposedly this program was like ran from inside the government, but that's not what we're seeing. It was just a study, just like when a college or a university studies a disease, they studied and come back with it. And if we're going to say that this is disclosure, the study found nothing. And it says that they built up reams of paperwork and discovered nothing. So the study claims there is no aliens. So I guess the disclosure is for the UFO community that there is no aliens. And I guess it cost $22 million to find this out. Here in the United States, our military budget is over $600 billion. And actually it employs physicists, engineers, scientists. I assume they have some of the best in the world with the aircraft, missiles, and space technology that the United States has developed, not to mention the people we got from Operation Paperclip. But I guess these people were too incompetent to figure out what $22 million given to a billionaire would figure out. So I guess that's the disclosure, was that it took $22 million to figure out that there's no aliens, and now we're going to call them aerial threats. Because I guess seeing anything in the sky is a threat to a human being. So, I've updated a picture on our Twitter page, so I crossed out UFO, and we're now aerial threat seekers.
I did see that.
And I think I'm
made me
going
laugh.
to get some like bulletproof vests to protect myself from these threats that are coming.
I did see that new logo of yours, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's funny. It is funny. Do we really need another acronym? Is UFO no longer enough that we need unidentified aerial phenomenon? There is what's the AAT one now? Advanced aerial threats. This is getting ridiculous. It is getting ridiculous, and I don't say that to make fun.
And I think, one thing, Dave, I'd really like to get into is that, while there's all this hysteria and people are tripping over themselves to think that Tom DeLonge disclosed the existence of aliens living here on Earth, I think they need to look deeper and start analyzing who these people are who are writing these articles, like Leslie Kean. They need to look at this place, Open Minds TV, Open Minds Radio. One of the employees from there is the manager of the UFO Congress, who gave Tom DeLonge his UFO Researcher Award of the Year. Okay, so that's just one piece of the pie. So people need to remember that when they hear Alejandro Rojas from Open Minds out in public and doing his radio show through Open Minds, and he's promoting Tom DeLonge and Leslie Kean, they need to understand that he's in control of Tom getting those awards in the UFO Congress. Okay, and now Leslie Kean, she's a UFO book writer. Well, Tom DeLonge's company is a book publishing company. So I sent messages to Leslie asking her if she had any plans to publish books with Tom, because I did see from the SEC filings that the company has paid out royalty advances to possible book authors, which I believe they've done with George Knapp. So I believe that the company has been paying out like advance royalties for people like Leslie and George Knapp to promote them. And people need to understand, too, Leslie Kean is the person who brought out the Chilean Navy UFO video. Well, it turns out that was just an airplane. So it was a hoax video. So people I think they need to do a little bit more research about this lady and, what she does in generating this type of hysteria. She's excellent at it. And I would point anybody to go to her website and go look at the reviews. And the first person you're going to see there who left her a review is John Podesta. So there we have like a direct connection between Leslie, Tom, and John Podesta. Okay, and John Podesta wrote the review for her book in 2010, which, you know, made all kinds of headlines and is a New York Times bestseller, yada, yada, yada. So there we have the political operative connection again, okay? So I think people need to, like, do some more research about all of the individuals involved with this before they start falling over themselves to think that aliens are real now.
Well, I did find it very interesting that the article did not mention anything about aliens. So who is flying these advanced aerial threats if they're not from here?
Well, see, that's already like a misinterpretation of the word. Aerial threat means a threat from the sky. So it's anything that could be coming, a missile, an aircraft, a satellite, a meteor. It could be anything from the sky. And the problem is that Tom DeLonge and his minions of socialists and communists are trying to frame it as if this study was something into alien UFOs. But in reality, it was a study into aerial threats done by an aerospace research company, which ironically has the same business setup as what Tom DeLonge has created with his so-called aerospace research company. So he did nothing more than copycat what Bigelow Aerospace had done and was thinking that he would get the same grant, right? Because Tom DeLonge knew about this grant, this $22 million grant to this private company to study these aerial threat phenomenons. And so he figured he could do the same thing. So him and his minions and Harry Reid, you know, and I want people to think about that too. Harry Reid knew about this program and kept it secret for Tom DeLonge to make money off of it, to raise investments for his book publishing company. It is not a UFO research company. If people go read the SEC filings, there is no UFO research. And in fact, if they don't reach $5 million, they don't plan to do any of these programs or the speculation. It's nothing more than a way for Tom to release his CDs. I mean, and how ironic is it that Tom DeLonge was on Joe Rogan saying that aliens exist. The government told him aliens exist and they found a body during the Cold War. Yet the Pentagon doesn't know this. Well, the Pentagon's the one who controls the military. So the military doesn't know we have alien bodies. So the funny thing is the deeper we get into this, the more we see Tom's little fairy tale and fantasy start to fall apart. The true reality is he got these videos from this Luis gentleman who is obviously some kind of disgruntled worker at the Pentagon and is a political operative himself. I mean, that's what's going on in our government right now, is it's kind of a change in power. We've been run by the Democrat Party in our country for a long time, and the people here voted in a new political party. So we've been seeing a change in these branches at the FBI, at the Department of Justice, at the NSA. All of these organizations are experiencing that deep state change. And that's what we're seeing here, is people who are so outraged with freedom that they're trying to do everything they can to destroy a certain political party to gain power back. And so that's what I feel I see out of this, is that this movement is a way to get votes in 2018 or 2020.
Well, and that could very well be. I don't see it as being as much of a political game as maybe you do, Tim. Maybe that's for me looking at it from this side of the border. I don't know. What I do see is Luis Elizondo, who was the one giving this information, going back to October 11th when he joined the DeLonge campaign, coming on and saying this exact story. And I was talking
So you're saying Luis kept it a secret so Tom DeLonge could make money off of it?
I think so. I think he was given that one. I think he was given that one piece of information that he could release at the time, which is the exact same story that the video was released just the other day. Okay, because Elizondo, during the telethon, came on there and said this is what happened near the USS Nimitz with 2 FA-18 Super Hornets. Now we got the video.
Okay, and let me stop you there. That video was actually talked about by AboveTopSecret.com in 2007. That was not a revelation. So here we have another hoax. That video from the Navy was on Above Top Secret in 2007. So it's not some outrageous secret. These are just little minions who find little things on the internet, and they're trying to make something bigger out of it. So I have a feeling that when FOIA requests, freedom of action requests, or anybody who actually still works in the government, and in fact, as you can see in the Pentagon response, so these are actually people who still work in the government, unlike Harry Reid, who's retired, unlike Elizondo, who's retired, unlike Christopher Mellons, who's the consultant to the STARS Academy and works with Leslie Keane. All of these people are now out of the government. So what they say is kind of irrelevant because they could be making it up, so they have to provide evidence. So I don't know if you've seen something different, but I have not seen any evidence to back up the claims of Mr. Elizondo. I've just seen speculation and opinion. And in fact, if we look, he's part of a company that's trying to raise investments because the investment ends at December 31st. So, and that's something I haven't seen reported out there by any of these UFO mainstream media people, who call themselves journalists, like Coast to Coast AM, they have journalists, I guess, who work there. But the investment funding to the STARS Academy ends December 31st. So we were fully expecting a last-ditch press release push in the last 2 weeks of this investment because it doesn't give anybody a chance to rebut what's going on at all. Because you just do it at the last minute. Hey, here's 2 more weeks. Hopefully they can get some more funding. I know they're over $2 million, and they can help Mr. DeLong get out of debt. So Mr. DeLong's going to pay himself back $600,000 because he gave himself a $600,000 loan with 10% interest. And then R2 Dogs, that's who's getting paid back, R2 Dogs LLC. Tom DeLong basically gave himself to the STARS Academy a loan through R2 Dogs, which is owned by DeLong Family Trust, to the STARS is owned by DeLong Family Trust. So, I have to applaud Mr. DeLong. He has done so well. Him and George Knapp have orchestrated the greatest event in UFO history as far as it comes to getting money from people. They milked this thing and used it so good and gave everybody nothing. No aliens. There is no UFOs. We're going to call them aerial threats. And the government gives grants out to billionaires at free will and keeps it secret. Welcome to America.
Well, and I understand and I agree with that, but let's stick with Luis Elizondo here. We're not talking about a dummy who wasn't involved. We're talking about a guy who was a senior military intelligence official, worked at the Pentagon, and he was the one who was supposedly in charge of this. Now, when he comes out with this on October 11th, stating that this story happened, and then...
So was he in charge of the study? Because here we go again. What was he in charge of? In fact, in the article I've seen, he had other duties. So everybody's tripping over themselves to think that the Air Force and the military had in the Pentagon and there was this room with all these UFO materials and here was this Elizondo character looking over this thing with endless halls of drawers of X-File evidence. No, man. Harry Reid gave $22 million to a billionaire who liked to study UFOs for fun. Now Elizondo claims he was running a Black Ops X-Files program at the Pentagon, when in actuality, all he was doing was overseeing a grant for a study. And now they're running around, whoa, we had a Project Blue Book. There is no Project Blue Book. That was back in the day. Those were real Air Force people. Those guys actually take guns to places and they worked for the government. This was a grant to a private company to have fun. And you know what? They didn't even give it to MUFON. So I think everybody should start reconsidering if MUFON is now obsolete because they couldn't even find out this grant existed. They couldn't even get a grant like this to study UFOs, and obviously their database and their information wasn't good enough to get a grant like this from the government. They chose someone random like Bigelow. So I think people need to start doing a lot of self-reflection and start seeing if organizations like MUFON are obsolete and just exist to make movies.
Funny as you mention that, because I literally just heard from Grant Cameron seconds ago in a private message to me. And he says, I don't think you will hear much about DeLong as it rolls along. The focus has now moved to Robert Bigelow and the 38 reports as well as the hardware. That's what it comes down to now.
Yeah, because it was a hoax, man. I mean, when we're talking about this all in general, Tom DeLonge was building a book publishing company with people like George Knapp. I'm sure his mentor is Leslie Kean, a very successful book writer. And it was all perpetuated that he was going to disclose the existence of aliens. And that's what this was all about. But instead, what we come to find out is we have a leaker, a guy who administered a grant to a private company from the Pentagon, given by Harry Reid in Nevada to Bigelow, a billionaire, to have fun and study this advanced threat material that the $600 billion budget to the Air Force, the Navy, and all their experts, I guess, couldn't figure out, because we don't hire the best. I guess that's what the revelation is. I guess we're paying way too much. That's the revelation, and I agree with Grant. The real information is going to be following this Elizondo character and find out how this even happened. I mean, in America, you just can't be spending taxpayer money and not telling anybody about it. I mean, if anything, the disclosure shows that the government's a liar, and certain people in the UFO community are going to join with these liars to perpetuate it, as they were studying alien UFOs in the Pentagon, and it was Tom DeLonge who released all this, when the whole time Luis could have told us, Harry Reid could have told us, Bigelow Aerospace could have told us, or Aerospace. But no, they all kept it secret for Tom, when if you go into the SEC filings, so if anybody says that this is not about raising investments, they're not telling the truth. They have to go in reality and find evidence. The evidence is in the SEC filings, because that tells us what they plan to do with the money. And it shows nothing but it's a music company that produces Tom DeLonge CDs. It uses his name. It sells clothing. They plan on having a UFO festival to bring in entertainment. And that's where people need to go with this. They need to stop listening to people's opinions and people's speculation, because Leslie Kean is in. We're going to break it here right now, Dave. Leslie Kean works for UFO Data. People need to go look at this company called UFO Data. It's a nonprofit company that Leslie Kean is a part of, and it's trying to establish a system of sensors and cameras around the United States to monitor UFOs 24/7. Not too long ago, UFO Data and Leslie Kean were contacted by Christopher Mellon. Christopher Mellon was one of these military insiders, analyzed counterintelligence, stuff like that. He worked for one of the Rockefellers, one of the congressional Rockefellers. He was an assistant to him. Christopher Mellon, and he's also the descendant of the gentleman who started Gulf Oil. Christopher Mellon contacted UFO Data and became a member. If you go right now to UFO Data, look up the team list, and you're going to see Leslie Kean above Christopher Mellon. On Open Minds Radio, I believe on October 17th, it was either October 11th or October 17th, but I believe it's 17th, Leslie Kean appeared on UFO Minds, or Open Minds, and they started discussing this topic. She was talking about how Christopher Mellon joined UFO Data, and they talked to each other about Tom DeLonge. That's when she says that Christopher reached out to Tom DeLonge, and that's when this all began. I can promise all of you, this is nothing more than a way for Tom to raise money to help all of these book authors, and to also, in the end, help to get funding for this UFO Data company that Leslie Kean and Christopher Mellon work on. Because in that interview, too, Leslie lets it out that Christopher Mellon is a main consultant to Tom DeLonge and to the Stars Academy. And that's where the connection to Leslie is. You can't really find a connection to her and Tom, but that's where it is. Okay, Leslie Kean is a guest on Coast to Coast AM, a regular guest. Richard Blumenthal, who helped write the New York Times article, is a guest on Coast to Coast AM. Okay? The first article that started all of this was written by George Knapp. George Knapp is a host on Coast to Coast AM. All of the promotions for this has been from Coast to Coast AM. Linda Moulton Howell, she's on Coast to Coast AM. All of these people, it comes back to them. People don't realize that what they're witnessing is a conglomerate in the UFO community that's trying to pull the rug over all of our heads and claim that they disclosed Project Blue Book when it was nothing more than a grant to a billionaire. I promise you, Dave. That will be the end result. And it's going to end up happening where this video that we're seeing right now, this newest video that got released, is going to be a hoax, bro. It's just a jet fighter in front of another jet fighter. In fact, the pilot even admits in the New York Times had to update the article because they had the wrong audio. Now it says it's a drone. It's a drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Because that's what the aerial threat program is, Dave. It's not an alien UFO threat program. It was an aerial threat program because the military would never fund such speculation into a fringe topic when the government could feed people or the government could give medical benefits to people. You know, and that's the funny thing about this, all of this is being perpetuated by socialist communists in our country. Tom DeLonge, communist. John Podesta, communist. They're all communists, right? Oh, take from the rich, give to the poor. And look at them, man. They're leading the way to take money from the poor and give it to the rich to study UFOs. It's seriously, like, I couldn't have been more happier when this came out because it proved that Tom was basically a joke. And he's going to be a joke, and that's how he'll be remembered. In 5 years, when people start looking back at this and see the hysteria that this caused in the UFO community, and oh my God, aliens are real now, it's going to be nothing more than this Luis Elizondo character who was administering a grant for a study that found that there was no UFOs. But he claims there's UFOs and aliens. Man, he even claims there's aliens, yet he provides no evidence. And in fact, he gives us these videos, which are blurry. They don't show anything. The government refused to tell us where they were shot. I mean, it couldn't get any worse. It couldn't get any worse. So I'm still waiting. In fact, I posted on Twitter today and asked everybody if they know when the disclosure event's going to happen, because I'm still waiting.
Well, I'm not going to mention the other show for obvious reasons. I can't. All right, but I do understand the tie that you were making. Grant Cameron, who is listening in, says the media is being used. Knapp knows the inner secrets that are about to drop, and Grant mentions them on his UFO update. So, right. on YouTube.
And I want people to remember that, too. George Knapp, he may even be liable for SEC violations. If he owns stock in Tom DeLonge's company and had insider information to buy in, that's illegal here in the United States. You can't get secret information. So there's a lot of these people walking a tight wire of things that they don't even comprehend how bad it could be for them in the end. And two, I want people to realize that Leslie Kean used to work at the Washington Post, which is why she has this special access to drop these articles in there. And she's the one dropping them all. So it makes no sense. I mean, if you go to every single article, it was either written by a coast-to-coast AM host or a coast-to-coast AM guest. Every single article. There's nothing beyond that. Even the only person, they added a third person's name to that New York Times article, who's a Pentagon correspondent. Go through her articles. You'll see she's a hardcore liberal socialist. All of these people are political operatives, and man, they are awesome. I freaking applaud them for pulling the wool over everyone's head and helping Tom raise investments for his book publishing company. So I seriously hope for Tom that his CD that's coming out next year does really well, and all of the UFO community is really happy with the disclosure of Tom's CD, and that's kind of what they'll get for their money, and some blurry videos shot from somewhere where we don't know. And the 2004 video that had already been disclosed on AboveTopSecret.com. Dang.
Well, I do have to say this. I did watch an ABC special story on this where, of course, we had the X-Files. music playing in the background, and then the typical, as I've said many a times before, when the reporter throws back to the anchors, there's always the one anchor who has to make the snide, snarky comment, which in this time it was a lady sitting by George Stephanopoulos saying, what was it? Oh, that looks like the Millennium Falcon. I guess we're chasing the Millennium Falcon in the sky. Ha 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 ha. That's the way it works in the mainstream media. But on that story, retired Commander David Fravor was one of the pilots of the FA-18s. And he said on camera that what he saw on that day, it was not of this world. He did not mention anything of a drone. So that may be new information to you.
I don't know, man, because I read his transcript, and he said it moved like nothing he's ever seen before. I don't think that pilot believes in aliens. I think that pilot was out flying and saw something he didn't understand. It doesn't mean it's not a Lockheed Martin project that's an advanced drone that he's never seen before. It's the UFO community who takes it to the step and goes, oh my God, he said aliens are real. And that's what we've been finding. I mean, that's what UFO Seekers was about from the beginning. You have so many people out there who claim that aliens and UFOs are hiding around every corner. A pilot's just going to go out and see a UFO every time he flies. And if he sees something he can't identify, dang, it was from another galaxy. And I caution people, they should read that New York Times article, because even they weren't as bad as our UFO community is. They still put an MIT scientist in there who said people need to be careful. Advanced aerial threat does not mean something from another galaxy. So, Dave, I think that there's lots of hoaxers and people out in this community who are so desperate for Tom to expose the existence of aliens that they literally haven't even read everything that's going on. Where's the evidence? I mean, if anybody wants to say disclosure, where's the evidence? The study proved there was no UFOs. It's only Luis himself who is saying he believes in aliens. That means the study came back with aliens? No, the study says it came back with nothing. In fact, that's why they defunded it, because it was a freaking joke. That's what happened. It was a joke, and now, Luis believes in aliens, so the government says they believe in aliens. I have, no idea, bro, how people are making these leaps. I have no idea. But this will be one of the most destructive events that has ever occurred in the UFO community. But I am proud to be here and to be experiencing it, because I am watching the biggest people in this community ruin their reputations, literally ruin their reputations. I will never believe George Knapp again, no matter what he talks about. I mean, to know that he knew about this and didn't tell anybody so Tom DeLonge could raise more investment to publish books and put out his CDs and to actually recoup debt that from running his hot dog stand business. I mean, and these are things that a lot of people in the UFO community, they just don't care about, bro. They want to just click the play button and prove aliens exist. They're not doing their due diligence, and actually going and researching the things they talk about. And in fact, I even saw that from a Twitter user, but unfortunately I've been going through and pretty much unfollowing and blocking these people who are just, there's one UFO guy on there saying, if you don't believe any of this, you can go F off. That's what Tom DeLonge has done to this community. It's turned people into raving lunatic cultists. And when the government comes out and goes, that was just a jet in front of a jet, no one will ever believe the UFO community again, thanks to Tom DeLonge. And that's what he's doing. I seriously hope he sells tons of CDs, more hot dogs, and sells more clothing. It was good for them, man. I hope George Knapp got really invested in it too, and makes a lot of money off of this. So.
Well, let's look at some positives here for a second here, Tim, because never mind the infighting that this is causing in the UFO field, because it is. There's a lot of us, and I have to admit, if I were to choose sides, and I'm Mr. Canada here, man, I'm straight down the middle, okay? I'm like Switzerland right now. But on a personal level, I can tell you that I'm not a fan of this. Okay, I am not a fan of what went on.
Tom DeLonge ruined Luis's reputation. Luis would have been probably one of the greatest modern pieces of UFO history. But the fact that he wanted to monetize it to help Tom DeLonge get out of debt, that's where it's all over, bro. It literally means nothing. And the fact all of these people work together to help the DeLonge Family Trust, which owns 67 million shares into the Stars Academy and is the main shareholder, Jennifer and Tom being the only beneficiaries of the DeLonge Family Trust, I congratulate them, you know. I seriously hope, bro, they make millions of dollars off this.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just finish what I'm saying. Let's get to the public side of things for a second here, and in hour number 2 we can tackle this a little bit more. But on the public side, I think it was where ufology won and the disclosure movement won was the fact that we finally had a major front page piece of ufology being taken seriously by major media outlets and by the major newspapers. That is a win for this community that this community has been seeking for decades. You do have to admit that.
But no, I don't, because they don't understand politics. And that's so fortunate for me. I used to work as a political consultant and did strategy. In fact, I used to write many editorials for my local politicians and help them win elections. That's what people aren't getting. You know why it's headline news, bro, here in America? Because it's an outrage to give a billionaire a $22 million grant. Where's the evidence? I watched all these newscasts on Fox News, MSNBC. Where's the UFO, bro? Where's the alien? The only thing that you're seeing is that they're making fun of it because instead of giving money to the poor or to the middle class or to the Middle East or to a war, the government's out there just throwing millions of dollars to billionaires. And that's what Tom DeLonge exposed, is why socialism doesn't quite work here in the United States. We're about freedom. That's like the disclosure, is that the government just wastes money on nothing because the study proves nothing. So I guess that's what the UFO community is celebrating, that UFOs don't exist. It's only Luis himself who says they do because the study that he administered said they don't. So is he saying that the study was bad? I mean, and what does he have to say about Tom DeLonge? Tom DeLonge says the government found an alien. In fact, he was on Joe Rogan saying that the government took him aside and met him at a shady airport. And someone said they found an alien body in the Cold War. Why does the mainstream media not write Tom DeLonge's name in there? Because he has zero credibility. That New York Times editorial or article would never mention Tom DeLonge because he's literally considered a raving lunatic in real-world society. I mean, he went on Joe Rogan and showed a TR-3B CGI animated video and told everybody it was real. Then he followed it up by saying the government has an alien. Then he followed it up and said the government studies UFOs. But the study said they don't have UFOs and UFOs don't exist. And in fact, the study was so bad they had to defund it because the government said it was doing nothing and was a complete outrage and a waste of money. That's the disclosure, man. Nothing has changed.
I understand that, Tim.
Show me the evidence.
I'll show you the evidence. The main thing that I'm trying to get at, for most people who have been experiencers, you're not an experiencer, and I don't hold that against you, okay? I mean, you got a nice goatee, and I'm always a fan of that. You know that. But the point that I'm getting at is, for a lot of people, for a lot of years, Tim, they have been waiting for the mainstream media to report seriously on this, whether it's the Washington Post article, which, you know, love it or hate it, I thought it was well written. That's the point that I'm getting at. It is a very small victory, but a victory nonetheless for a community that has pretty much been ostracized from the mainstream because people think that people who see UFOs or have alien experiences are just a bunch of wingnuts.
So you're saying that the study that proved there isn't UFOs helped us? That's what the study found, that there's no UFOs. You realize that, right?
What I am saying, Tim, is the article is being taken seriously in the mainstream for the first time, which though
coverage isn't seriousness. You said yourself, they played funny X-Files music. They laughed about it and said the Millennium Falcon. Oh, that's how we want experiencers to be treated? We want experiencers to be taken serious, not led by somebody who's like Tom DeLonge, who makes a mockery of it. who shares fake things, who says lies, and teams up with people who share hoax videos like the Chilean Navy video, which turned out to be a hoax, which was shared by Leslie Keane. The people need to slow down, and look for evidence. Then they need to slow down and realize this wasn't a government program. This was a study. There's a difference. Government program means government people work on it. So things happening at Area 51, that's a government program. When the government takes $22 million and gives it to a billionaire, that's not a secret black ops problem. In fact, Dave, the program or the study was not even classified. It wasn't even a classified study, Dave. Does that mean it was like extraterrestrials and just beyond? So I think as people start to like slow down and calm themselves, because everyone was waiting because Tom hyped it so much that he was going to disclose the existence of aliens, when in reality he did nothing but disclose a grant to a billionaire that proved there's no UFOs. And now the guy who administered this study from the Pentagon, whose job was actually doing something else besides studying UFOs, says there's aliens. And he actually works with Tom DeLonge he's an employee of the company. So I think people need to slow down and need to realize that in 2, 3, 4 years, they might be looking back at this and Tom DeLonge may fade away into the fog, man.
Which is why Grant Cameron has said to me privately here on a messenger that there's a big reason why they're pulling away from DeLonge. Because they don't want him they don't want him to get the credibility. They don't want him. This is why it's turning into... This is where I believe Dave, Robert Bigelow is going to play a bigger role.
Right. Dave, doesn't anybody remember Dr. Greer? Like, dude, they were having congressional... They were doing stuff with Congress, dude, at the National Press Club. What do you mean we've all been waiting for this coverage? Does anybody remember the newspaper articles from Roswell? Is that not mainstream media coverage? The problem is that in the 24-hour news cycle, people want a picture of the Independence Day UFO and an alien popping out of it on the front page. And unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing. And in fact, when I'm out meeting with people, you can't whatever they're experiencing, whether it's an abductee, someone who's seen something, you're not just going to go and find this thing, whatever it is. This thing can beam from here to there. It can disappear. It can float over your head as a circle or a sphere and then shoot up into the sky and disappear. You could just be sitting in your room and all of a sudden you wake up inside a UFO. Hey, you could be outside and you see an alien hiding in the brush and then the light darts off into the sky. There is that people are waiting for that to be on the front page of the newspaper. I don't need Tom DeLonge to give me a study that proved UFOs don't exist to tell me UFOs do exist. I've met plenty of abductees, plenty of witnesses, and I've seen stuff myself to know myself that aliens are real. I didn't need a 1990s musician to tell me UFOs are real. I really didn't. And I don't need someone who administered that grant who now believes in aliens when his study found there was no UFOs, and now is an employee working for Tom DeLonge to tell me that aliens are real. So,
all right, Tim, I'm going to let you cool down for a couple of minutes. Hopefully you still have some chin hair left after rubbing it with your hand there, because that was on fire. We'll get back to more UFO talk. Disclosure. Did it happen or not? More with Tim Doyle for one more hour. Right after this on the Mighty SOR, Hour 3, Michael W. Hall and Peter Davenport. Be prepared for overtime, space travelers. We'll be back.
Hey, space travelers. It's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at SpacedOutRadio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience, Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruse, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our Advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, movie director, author Ian Holt will be back for his every second month appearance on this show. Ian, one of our more popular guests on this program, will talk everything from ufology to paranormal to music and everything in between. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We are also live on the Fringe.fm, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, and if you listen in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listeners. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Phenomenology. Phenomenology is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, try us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also join us on Facebook for live chat in the SOR Space Travelers group. We're on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We're on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our show on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Watch videos from UFO seekers and Contact TV, and read up on the encounter online. Don't forget to rock out to some Bumblefoot. Everything and more at spacedoutradio.com. For the next hour, we have Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers in tonight talking about this weekend's events. Did disclosure happen or not? Tim says no. I say maybe a little bit. We'll call it a soft disclosure. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Oh, and it's aerial threat seekers now. So UFOs have been banned, I've heard. So it's aerial threat seekers.
I thought you were unidentified aerial phenomenon. I thought you were UAP seekers now.
You know, it's funny because I debated forever if I should buy that domain name in case someone else gets the name, but...
Oh, I think you should. I think you should. Absolutely. Okay, so continuing on, because I'm going to tell you right now, we got the audience pretty heated up here on both sides. People who are saying, you're damn right. People are saying, Tim, you're wrong, 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 wrong. And then there's a crowd who loves it when you say, bro. So the whole point that I am getting at here is this is a very touchy subject for a lot of people. And is it a little bit tough right now to try and figure out why people are getting so upset about this? Because in the end, this whole field should either be swaying one way or the other. Do you not agree with that?
No, because I actually like opposing opinions. And I've even found that from like business experience when I've worked in environments where everybody agreed everyone was a yes man and just said what everybody else wanted them to say. The business never thrived. In fact, it would become stale and be killed by innovation developed by the competition. So I think when you have diversity of opinion and opposing beliefs, that's when you can actually reach some truth and things become greater, you know, because if one's on the left and one's on the right, we have our discussion, and then, you know, a proper discussion, that's when we reach a middle ground, which would be like passing legislation in Congress, and that's where the best of everything comes out, because it helps everyone. You know, if everyone's just on one side, then, you know, half of the people are left out in the cold. So,
well, one of the issues that I take with this is the word threat. Threat can be a very dangerous word, especially in a military-industrial complex.
Yeah, but that's why they call it a threat, because it's military. The military doesn't care if there's... I mean, that's what the military's about, right? Because, you know, kind of the way our Constitution's set up, the number one priority of our government is protection. That's the number one. That's what they're supposed to do. You know, and everything else is beyond that. They're supposed to help me be protected from someone else or enemy threats. And that's why it's called a threat, an aerial threat, because it's the military and they're looking for something that could harm us. And so that's why I see it as referring to manned craft. They're worried about a threat from China flying a drone that has technology beyond our comprehension. You know, and imagine that for a pilot, Dave, right? So, and I have friends that are pilots. Shoot, I have high school buddies I went to school with who fly planes at Area 51. You know, and have flown missions, war games at Area 51. They laugh at me, bro, and say nothing's going on out there. Nothing more than Air Force testing. But I think, unfortunately, you know, for a lot of the guys who are in the service, they're not allowed to ask questions. They're not like the engineer or the scientist. Like once when I met the relative of a gentleman who worked for Magnavox and was getting flown every day in the 70s from LA to Area 51 and was working on embedding communications in the color spectrum so that they could shoot light into space that had communications. You know, because it goes at the speed of light. It's the fastest way to send something. So if you wanted to communicate with aliens, hey, that's how you could do it. So look, there's evidence of an extraterrestrial type program looking to communicate with an extraterrestrial being. But the Air Force pilot who's flying the advanced F-22 stealth fighter with 2 autonomous drones following him and practicing war games from Nevada to Utah doesn't see these things. They aren't going down 10 levels into other departments and seeing things developed by other corporations that they're not a part of. It's all compartmentalized. So I don't expect a Navy pilot flying an F-18 to understand a black project when he sees it flying around. And if it's a black project from the Chinese or the Russians or, hey, the Australians or whoever, no, it's an unidentified aerial threat because it's a threat to the United States. So we got to kill it. When we're talking about aliens, and I wanted to make the greatest video meme where it shows, for anyone who's a Star Trek fan, remember when First Contact happened and the Vulcans came down and they landed because that drunk engineer scientist guy had just made the first warp engine and the Vulcans detected the warp signal, so they came to Earth and made first contact with humans. You know, there was one episode in one of the Star Trek versions when the Vulcans landed, the humans saw them as a threat and attacked and killed the Vulcans. I mean, that's what these guys have done to the UFO community. So somehow now when I look up at the sky, man, and I see a light in the sky, it's an aerial threat. So I better report it to the military because it might come down and kill me. You know, and before this announcement, people half-half thought aliens would reach out to us to make proper contact. Maybe they'd help us. Maybe they're actually the creators who are kind of watching everything going around and genetically engineered us. Maybe it's like the ancient aliens theory and the aliens came and helped past civilizations. But now all of a sudden, these things are threats. And that's the red flag. That's the red flag, Dave. That's where people need to stop and think and go, wow, this was just a military study that was completely off base. Because that's why people in the Pentagon canceled it. Because the second they learned that Harry Reid had given this money to Bigelow Aerospace to study these aerial threats, they probably went, whoa, whoa, whoa. We actually have Air Force employees who can do that. So imagine this, Dave. Okay, let's take the speculation that they have this alien hardware and this Luis guy knows all about it and even maybe handled this alien spacecraft parts, right? Because I guess that's what he did, right? He handled alien spacecraft parts and whatever. He was in charge of the new Project Blue Book, I guess. So Harry Reid doesn't know about the alien bodies Tom DeLonge said they discovered in the Cold War. Oh, well, if Harry Reid knows that these technologies are alien, you're telling me he gave alien spaceship parts to Bigelow Aerospace and he didn't give them to the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. Navy?
Okay, and I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring up what
that falls apart.
I'm going to bring up what Grant Cameron has told me on this because I actually asked him. He said Harry Reid was friends with Robert Bigelow, and they needed a private company to do the research, so there was no Freedom of Information Act requests. They have hardware, and they are researching with experiencers, as Grant had mentioned on this show just a couple of weeks ago. Now, to follow that up, Grant has then said they are about to show the hardware, more films and 38 reports, most over 100 pages and one 490 pages long. He says this has only just begun.
So Harry Reid gave an alien spaceship to Bigelow Aerospace?
He gave the research, according to Grant Cameron, what he's been able to find out. They needed a private company to do the research, so that way it stayed out of any FOIA reports.
Right, which is highly illegal, and I would completely expect that from Harry Reid. So Harry Reid doesn't want any oversight and believes he is the god of all American citizens. So he believes our tax money should just be given to his friends, and we should not be allowed to even know about it. So that's what I hear from that statement. And in fact, there's this organization called MUFON, and I believe they've been open close to 100 years. They have a whole database of UFO sightings if this Harry Reid character is ever interested in really studying UFOs.
Well, I mean, it does make sense, though, with Area 51 right in his backyard. Why wouldn't he be interested?
Yeah. So, and you're saying, too, that Harry Reid has an alien craft, but he's letting Tom DeLonge raise investments for a book publishing company?
I don't think
and he's hiding it from us?
I don't think it has
That's
anything.
what I'm getting from all this.
Yeah, and I don't think that Harry Reid even knows who probably Tom DeLonge is. But he does know.
Yeah, and how did Harry Reid get these alien spacecraft parts? So Harry Reid's like just the champion of all subcommittees, and that's kind of how it works here in the United States. We have congressional committees, subcommittees, you know, the Intelligence Committee or Counterintelligence Committee or the Budget Committee, where the congressional representatives are appointed and they kind of get more special access into secret programs and projects. So I find it very hard to believe that a representative from the state of Nevada would take something from the federal government. So I have a real hard time believing that. I think the President of the United States or other congressional leaders from other states might have an issue with a Nevada representative taking the biggest question in all of life, which is, hey, if we captured an alien spaceship, and Harry Reid just decided to take that and give it to his friend. It sounds kind of weird. And I think that's kind of... People don't realize there's consequences to statements. So to say, oh, Harry Reid has these hardware and he's giving it to this guy, well, that means he got it from somewhere. That means he, took it. Mm-hmm. Was he given it? So, the Air Force found, an alien spaceship and they couldn't figure it out even though they have a $600 billion budget. And so did the Air Force support them losing this material? So instead of it going to, the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, they took it to some buildings in Las Vegas, because that's what the New York Times article says, is that Bigelow bought some buildings in Las Vegas, and that's where they did this quote-unquote research. Even though from what I've heard, I don't think, did they ever mention alien abductions? Did they mention alien UFOs? So as far as I can see, there's 38 reports of aerial threats. Here's the videos. So invest in Tom DeLonge's book company and help him release his next CD. So the correlation there, it doesn't make much sense to me. And in fact, I would just recommend that anyone out there listening who is interested in the UFO topic become a member of MUFON and search through their database. So I don't think that you need a 1990s musician to make this revelation to you. There's actually organizations who've been dedicated to this for a long time who have built up a lot of data on these kinds of things. So I think what we're just witnessing is like an elite conglomerate from Coast to Coast AM to Leslie Kean, where all these articles have come from. The article we saw in the Washington Post that let it all off, written by Leslie Kean. The article in the New York Times, written by Leslie Kean. I think it's time for Leslie to come out and let us know if she's on the payroll. Let us know if she's getting advances from Tom to write these articles, because that's when it goes from journalism to a press release. And that's what I think people need to be careful of. What we're watching is a penny stock company, which is basically a scam, because it's a book company that's soliciting itself as a UFO research company. And all they did was copy the Bigelow Aerospace model, hired some experts and put them on the payroll, and then they submitted SEC filings that they were going to publish music and books. So while everyone's out there speculating, say, oh, they're researching UFOs or whatever, I'm more interested in evidence and reality and fact. So the fact is what's in the filings, and the fact is what are they doing. So I guess this Tom DeLonge character knows that aliens exist. The government told him Harry Reid has an alien ship that he gave to this Bigelow billionaire, and Tom DeLonge still goes to work and make music. So I can tell you this from my personal experience, chasing these phenomenon that experiencers see, that if I had a military representative tell me that they found aliens, I would not go back to a day job. I would probably dedicate my entire life to finding this thing and calling out the person who said they knew they have an alien body, because Tom needs to do that, because obviously the Pentagon doesn't know. So Tom DeLonge met someone in the government who knows they have an alien body, but Harry Reid doesn't know about it and the Pentagon doesn't know about it. But that's okay. We'll just forget about that, because that's kind of how the UFO community works. You know, just say whatever you want, and then the next day we'll all just forget about it. But I would point people to go look at what Dr. Greer's saying also, to be careful of the false flag operation that's going on. You know, and I find it very ironic, right? It's the military and the government that's hiding aliens, but it's the military and the government that's going to disclose this stuff. So now we're supposed to trust them. And in fact, we're all supposed to bandwagon with people who are working with government insiders, and at the same time not trust the government. So, and that's where we have like two conflicting things going on, and I think people need to be careful.
But I think we can both agree that Tom DeLonge is a patsy here. He's a patsy. He's just the face with the publicity that can, you know, unite the 40s crowd to the 20s crowd because of his music. He's really a nothing player in this. He just likes to be the name of it. Can we agree on that? They chose him.
That's exactly what I think happened, because if people are interested in his Secret Machines book, they can see there's actually a second name, you know, because what people do here in the United States is real trendy right now to write books. And what you do, if anyone's ever heard of Bill O'Reilly, he was a very popular news media personality and wrote books that followed, you know, this terminology, who killed who. So it would be like, you know, who killed Lincoln, who killed Martin Luther King. And he would write these amazing books. Well, the true reality is there's an author behind those books and a celebrity who puts their name on it for marketing. So if anybody wants to look at the Bill O'Reilly books, they're going to see a second name on every one of the books, because it's actually the real researcher and the person who wrote it. And the celebrity just puts their name on it. So first we're going to start with Tom DeLonge's book, Secret Machines. So the name on there below Tom's is A.J. Hartley. Well, A.J. Hartley is like a award-winning author. So I'd really caution people. I mean, if they watch that Joe Rogan interview where he shared a CGI hoax YouTube video, they need to be real careful and look at what's really going on and the people who are associated with this. And I would agree with you 100%, Dave. If anything, he's just a patsy. And literally the videos we're watching, I mean, dude, why do they give us only blurry videos? That's why we don't shoot in that same gray infrared. And I believe it's a mix of the infrared and thermal. The reason we don't shoot like that exclusively is because you can't see what it is. The only way you're going to see what something is to shoot it in visual light, because that's how it visually looks. When you have those infrared cameras or just those FLIR cameras alone, you are never going to be able to get to the truth. And I'm telling you, if people analyze the newest video, look at the top in the center, and you're going to see the tail wing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, bro, if it comes out that it was an F-18 following an F-18. And that's how the government destroys the UFO community. They take something like this, feed out some funky videos that they don't tell you where they were or who was doing what, right? Because it's only the 2004 one where the pilot is coming out. Oh, hey, I saw a cigar-shaped object. I couldn't tell what it was. It was incredible. That's the guy's statement. The guy never said it was aliens or an extraterrestrial craft because he's a smart person. There's no way that you can see an object made of metal or whatever it's made of and know what's in it. You can't look at an object and go, it's alien, because you can't tell if there's an alien in there. Maybe if he was flying in the Star Trek Enterprise, bro, and data ran the sensors and said, hey, there's 2 life forms inside, but we're not to that point yet. We don't have the Star Trek Enterprise. So when a Navy pilot looks at another craft and sees it cigar-shaped, he saw a cigar-shaped object. The leap to that it was from Betelgeuse in another galaxy, that's what Leslie Kean is for. And she can write a book about that. And she can write a book about the Chilean Navy video that turned out to be a plane following a plane. I mean, who in the UFO community doesn't know that video? That was huge. Oh, my God, breakthrough. Chile releases Navy video. And it's the same thing, man. It's that gray thermal mixed with infrared that looks like nothing and you can't tell what it is, and you feed it out there to the gullible people in the UFO community, and then it spreads like wildfire. It comes out that it's a hoax, and the government laughs all the way to the bank.
I understand that, but there were 2 other senators who were involved in this decision as well. So it wasn't just Harry Reid. We had Ted Stevens, an Alaska Republican, as well as Hawaii Democrat Daniel Inouye. Both Stevens and Inouye are now deceased. So
that's very. Isn't that man? That's just ironic, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the whole point is it wasn't just Reid. Reid got the ball rolling. These other guys supported it.
Now we're getting to the truth, because all we see out there is it was Harry Reid. Now we're getting to some truth. There was more people involved with this grant to Bigelow. And I promise you that Republican wouldn't be going out saying, hey, I was looking for aliens. The Republican would come out and say, hey, I'm a fiscal conservative, but I was interested in studying these aerial threats from this different company that's different than Lockheed Martin or Boeing. So we invested $22 million in a basic study to see if this Bigelow Aerospace company could come up with any additional research to show us what these possible aerial threats from another country might be. No different than when the stealth fighter crashed in, what was the name of the freaking country? It was in like 1987, 89 or something. A stealth fighter went down overseas.
In Bosnia.
Yeah. Correct. No different than we wouldn't want those people to pick those pieces up, right? They would pick that F-117 up. They would not understand the coding because the stealth capabilities of the aircraft is only partly in the design. The main part that makes it a stealth craft is the paint and the material that's applied to the outside. It was like some special spray-on material where the electrons bond in a certain way, and it creates, some kind of formation where these signals are absorbed from radar transmitters. And somehow the material absorbs it or reflects them at weird angles that doesn't go back to the radar receiver, because a radar sends out from a transmitter, and then it waits for the signal to come back in a different wavelength. And so that's what's happening. The material is absorbing it and sending the radio signals back at the same wavelength. And that's how the radar doesn't see it. So no different than those Bosnians would have picked up that F-117, started looking at it and went, wow, it's black on the outside, and started analyzing the paint or the material. They wouldn't even know what they're looking at, man. It would take years upon years for them to develop the science to even catch up to where we were at, even if they were trying to reverse engineer it. So now put ourselves in America's shoes. There's this other country, I know, Tom DeLonge and his minions don't know, but there's these other countries called China and Russia, and they also have militaries. I think you should check it out. They also have militaries, and they fly crafts just like us, and they even have people who work for militaries, just like our country. There's people there that work for militaries, and they develop crafts that are different than ours. So I don't find it wild to think that our military looks for threats in the sky. I don't find that wild. I think they look for threats in water. I think they look for threats on ground. I think they look for threats in space. They may even look for threats on the moon. It does not mean that aliens exist. It means that the government has programs called aerial threat programs where they look for threats that might come from other countries. And so when people in the service would have experiences or sightings, or there was videos that came up, of course they would have programs called aerial threat analysis. Hey, so I don't like it. I cannot express to you how disappointed I am with the UFO community right now. Like beyond. I will never accept an invitation to the UFO Congress in Alejandro Rojas. I will never go on Coast to Coast AM. I will not play any part to this, to all of these people who want to just help Top DeLonge recoup debt from his hot dog stand company and produce more CDs, because that's the true nature of what's going on. It's a company seeking investment, and it's called To the Stars Academy, which was mentioned in the New York Times article, who wouldn't even take the leap to mention Tom DeLonge because they know that he's considered a lunatic out in real life because he claims that aliens were found by the government. But now he claims that there was a UFO program that found there was no UFOs, and the Pentagon doesn't know that there's aliens. I mean, the story is like so confusing and is like a Jenga puzzle, and you pull the wrong piece out and the whole Jenga puzzle falls down. So, I mean, if people want to go with Tom DeLonge disclosed that UFOs don't exist, that's okay. I believe UFOs exist. I've been searching for them for a while. I meet people who've seen them, and I'll keep searching for them because I know they're there. I don't need Tom DeLonge to release a study that said they found nothing, so the government defunded it, and it was done by a private corporation outside of our big names, so they didn't use Lockheed Martin or Boeing. They didn't even use Air Force employees. They didn't even use people from the Air Force Research Laboratory who supposedly found pieces of crafts from an alien craft in Roswell. I mean, where does that go now? So, I mean, there's so many things where Tom DeLonge has dropped a nuclear bomb in the UFO community, and it'll probably take a decade to pick up the pieces to figure out who's just in it for money.
And it does come down. But, I mean, don't forget, too, also in the article, okay, John Glenn had discussed this project with Harry Reid, saying that we need to be looking seriously into UFOs. Now, this man was a heralded astronaut in NASA. This guy could do whatever he wants in the United States, you know, and get away with it. That's how heroic people and what a pedestal people kept him on. So when we have an astronaut like John Glenn coming out and saying, you know, we need to be talking to military service members, especially pilots who report seeing craft, rather than punishing them, you know, this is where everything kind of, you know, balls into one big ball of dough where we're trying to figure out where the ends are when we're stuck in the middle. You know what I'm saying? So we do have those voices of other senators saying, we need to do this. We need to support this. We need to get the information from the Air Force and the Navy and the Marine Corps to figure out what the hell is going on and what is flying out there, and is it a threat? So I think it is a little bit bigger than just Tom DeLonge.
Okay. So we're saying that Tom DeLonge lied then, right? Because from what you just said, the government does not know what it is. So Tom DeLonge lied when he said the government had an alien, right?
No, I honestly believe...
Well, you just said that because you said the Air Force can't figure it out, the military can't figure it out. Well, if they had an alien body, they would have figured it out, bro. They know it was flying by an alien. They had the body. And in fact, people claim they found aliens at Roswell that were taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or Area 51. Oh, so now they didn't?
Well,
so which story is true? So I think that we can see that this disclosure is now debunking Roswell, because now we know that the Pentagon doesn't have alien bodies. So Roswell is now debunked, right? I mean, this is what Tom DeLonge has done to this community now. I mean, I don't need to be told that John Glenn talked to Harry Reid, so I should believe something. It doesn't work like that here in America. It only works like that in the mainstream. I mean, even politicians do that. Hey, I'm a veteran of the service, so vote for my bill. Well, your service, I mean, we appreciate it more than anything. I would die for you too, bro, but it doesn't mean I'm going to vote for your legislation because I use my brain to think for myself. So I don't need John Glenn to have a conversation with Harry Reid to tell me UFOs exist. That happens when I meet someone who's seen a UFO or when I've seen it myself. And if John Glenn has been fighting for this forever, he didn't need Harry Reid to fund a $22 million grant to a billionaire to figure it out. In fact, I think John Glenn would agree that the experts inside the Air Force and the Navy and probably even NASA might be better than the people at Bigelow Aerospace. I just going out on a limb there, but I would hope that the NASA scientists could do more than the Bigelow Aerospace. And in fact, I'm right, because it took $22 million through 2007 to 2012 to find nothing. So what a waste of money. Instead of giving it to poor people or helping with medical benefits or sending it, to veterans, because we have like such long waiting lines for veterans at the VA hospitals here. Oh no, man, let's give $22 million to a billionaire to go have fun.
Yeah, but Tim, you have to look at it. $22 million. They're not going to say they invested billions in this. We already know the Pentagon has the worst accountants in history, losing trillions of dollars that they can't, or they say they can't report.
Those things go into a physical product, Dave. Those things go into a physical product. You spend the money and you get something back. You get an airplane back, or you get, a new missile back. They don't just over and over throw money to private companies not to develop something. The money goes into development so that they can use it. That is it, right? Or the research stops. So Bigelow Aerospace found nothing. And that's what they've disclosed, is that they couldn't even figure out if it was aliens. I don't remember the article saying that it was alien extraterrestrial crafts that they found. They're just going to show us 38 sightings and some videos that proved they couldn't prove UFOs exist, right? So that's what I'm getting from it, man. I mean, I think people need to slow down and realize this is just a 1990s musician who's on his way. I mean, he went quadruple platinum back in the day in the late 90s, and now he's kind of spiraling out of existence. And so this is kind of his way to try to come back. And I think he's dragging a lot of people through the mud because, like I said, I will never trust the people who have joined with him ever again. And as far as I'm concerned, they have no credibility. And I'd really like to know if they've been getting paid. Is George Knapp getting paid to go on Coast to Coast to say what he says, then say, I'm a journalist? Is Leslie Kean getting paid by Tom DeLonge to go on in the New York Times and in Washington Post to write what she does? And from what I've seen behind the scenes and the way that these people are all connected, I would assume they are. I would assume Leslie is on Tom's payroll and receives money from him. If not, she's getting it from someone else who's close to him.
And that's where I will agree with you, because this whole campaign, if you want to stick with DeLonge for a second, this whole campaign has not been given the highest rating for journalistic integrity. I actually, and I will admit this, because I've been keeping a timeline since the press conference on October 11th. All right? And I finally got an email back about a week and a half ago saying, sorry, we're all booked up until January. So I sent them another email back saying, I'm booking January. Could we set a date? And they said, same as last email. We're not discussing any interviews.
They don't care. It's a penny stock company running a scam and a scheme to raise money. The first people, I advise your listeners, go look and read 10 steps to starting multi-level marketing. 10 steps to starting a multi-level marketing scam. Number one, you're going to see hire experts. That's it. So Tom DeLonge has hired all these experts who go out and say all these things, but when you go read the SEC filings, it's just like a music company, and they're going to write books, and Poet Anderson and all these other names. Leslie Kean writes books. George Knapp wants to write a book about Bob Lazar. I mean, it was in the Joe, right? George Knapp goes on Coast to Coast and promotes Tom DeLonge. Then Tom DeLonge goes on Joe Rogan and lets out of the bag that he's been working with Tom DeLonge or George Knapp on a book deal to write Bob Lazar's autobiography. And we broke that story on Twitter. thank God for Joe Rogan for finding some disclosure. So now we have George Knapp going on national radio when he already has backroom deals going with the person he's talking about and is obviously probably getting advances from him. And that's what we need to find out about Leslie, too. Does she have deals with Tom in the future for him to publish her books? I know that she just uses Crown Publishing, but I am pretty sure that she's working with him on some projects. So I think people need to be really careful, really careful.
I agree with that. And my issue with everything along this entire line, and my stance has not changed on this, is where is the journalistic integrity in regards to all of this because of the tie-ins that you just made? It has nothing to do...
come on, Dave.
It has nothing to do with being jealous. You know, like a lot of...
are we assuming... Yeah, are we assuming that the U.S. military doesn't study threats from the air? I mean, dude, that is where it ends. So they're telling me that Harry Reid is the God know-it-all? Harry Reid knows everything, or those 3 senators, 3 out of the 100, know everything more than what's going on inside the military. From, I've watched X-Files a few times. They were talking about secret governments inside the government. I mean, this is where it is like so surface level that we just have these 3 senators working together to disclose this, these so-called UFO sightings. Bro, they don't even know if the government's already solved it. How do they know? Have they been into all the bunkers and the basements? I mean, it just falls apart no matter which way we look at it when we try to take a rational view and when we say something, it has implications. Oh, Harry Reid has hardware, he gave it to Bigelow. Well, that means that this hardware was somewhere. Someone was analyzing it and couldn't figure it out. Was it a company that receives $100 billion a year that couldn't figure it out? Was it the U.S. military that gets over $600 billion a year that couldn't figure it out? People are going to just realize it was just a basic grant given to a friend, because they're both from Nevada, right? It's just a grant given to a billionaire to go have some fun, man. And go, try to find what are these? We had trouble analyzing these threats. Can you do some extra studying to find out what's going on? It's no different than if the government had found the Ebola disease. It's no different than if the government had found the Ebola disease and they give it to different people to study it. Hey, here, you take this piece, you take this piece, you take this piece, and all 3 of you study it. And what did Bigelow find out? Nothing. Nothing was proven. So is that what I'm supposed to believe now, that UFOs don't exist and they're threats? It makes no sense, man.
Okay, I want to get to Joe's question here because I do believe it's relevant, okay? He is saying, how is anything going to happen in the UFO field if all of the researchers are so damn jealous of each other that none of them believe anything that the others are saying?
Okay, so me talking about a grant given from the government is jealousy.
No, so, I'm going to... It's not a...
The funny part about the UFO... The funny part about the UFO community is they're snowflakes. So the difference is if we go and watch the news, like a regular mainstream news show, they have people on there who disagree. They do. I promise your listeners, there are people on there who disagree. And they invite them back over and over. In fact, the most popular news mediums actually have 2 people of opposing opinions, and they pose a question and they give it to one and then they give it to a person who gives an opposing opinion. And that's the problem with the UFO community. That is unacceptable. We must all become Tom DeLonge cultists and minions and believe that the government doesn't have aliens and that Bigelow Airspace found that there's no UFOs. And that's what I'm supposed to believe now. No, I believe that the military has found stuff over time and is hiding stuff. I believe that there are people in the Pentagon who don't know about it. I believe Harry Reid has no freaking clue what the military really has, because I believe in the military-industrial complex and that there's secret legislation as posed in speeches by past presidents warning us of the military-industrial complex. And I promise you, a representative from Nevada doesn't hold the keys to God. I promise you that the military is hiding stuff, and they know more than this Harry Reid person claims. So I don't think the government, has a pilot go out and has a sighting. I don't believe he comes back and gets fired. I believe the military would actually go, hey, let me see the video. And they'd look at it, and they'd go, oh, yeah, that's a Chinese drone. Oh, that's another aircraft. Oh, hey, we don't know what it is, and they'll analyze it more. They didn't need someone on the outside like Harry Reid, who's just supposed to pass like tax legislation and other stuff like that, to become a military representative and try to take stuff into his own hands and try to discover the biggest question in the world on $22 million. And in fact, the U.S. military is getting $600 billion a year, so let's time that by how long the military's been in existence. We're talking about trillions upon trillions upon trillions, and I'm supposed to be told that a $22 million grant that proved there's nothing is the tell-all for everything. I'm more interested in Project Blue Book. They were actually posing the question, are these things extraterrestrial? And that's what I think everyone's missing. There is nothing in this study that was posing they're alien. It was aerial threats, which is why they don't use UFO. If we look back at Project Blue Book, they were studying things that people were seeing and experiencing and approaching it from a perspective that it could be anything even outside this world. And that was the basis for it. The basis wasn't just it's a threat and we're military, so let's defend ourselves from the threat. Project Blue Book actually posed the question, too, if there is something, maybe they're trying to contact us, or how can we have contact with these people? Do you see how like an aerial threat program doesn't include that? How could something be a threat and not a threat at the same time? So, and that's why I'd really encourage people to visit our YouTube channel and check out our videos, because we'll always keep a rational, we'll always give you a rational view of these issues. We're not just going to jump on a bandwagon because I want, these UFO celebrities to promote me tomorrow. I'm actually interested in the question if aliens exist. And that's what I'm all about. And if my government is giving out grants to billionaires while my neighbor is hungry, yeah, I might have a problem with that. And it doesn't make me jealous by bringing it up. I'm actually interested in analyzing these things because politics is involved in everything. So maybe that's why they're just announcing this now after those 2 senators have passed. Maybe that's why. Because now Harry Reid can run rampant and say whatever he wants and insinuate everything to help Tom DeLonge make money. And people should really question the morality of anyone involved with this who hid it so that Tom could have sell stocks. So that Luis guy hid this from us so Tom could sell stocks. Harry Reid hid this from us and sold stock, and so Tom could sell stocks. So I think people need to slow down and be careful, because coming next year, these videos are going to be debunked. Just like the Chilean Navy video released by Leslie Keane, who wrote these articles. They're going to be debunked. She is the queen of sharing hoax videos from governments. And that's what I think people are going to find.
Under the article, it says here, and I'm going to read the quote from the New York Times. It says, under Mr. Bigelow's direction, the company modified buildings in Las Vegas for storage of metal alloys and other materials that Mr. Elizondo and program contractors said had been recovered from unidentified aerial phenomena. Researchers also studied people who said they had experienced physical effects from encounters with the objects and examined them for any physiological changes. So that does tell me right there that the government did hand over some sort of material for Bigelow and his subcontractors to look over.
No one said they didn't. I'm questioning anyone who says they're alien. Where does it say they're alien? In fact, you just said they're metal alloys. How do we know it's metal? How do we know what UFOs are or what they're made out of? That is the problem with our community. All of these people who even think like a Geiger counter could prove aliens exist. A Geiger counter just shows radiation, and whatever made radiation made the radiation. It doesn't prove that something came from another planet and landed here. It only proves that there's radiation in the ground. I mean, and we need to remember, too, there's people like North Korea who shoot missiles. And so let's assume that it was from a country who was more advanced than North Korea. Let's assume it was the North Korean missile, but there was some piece of it we couldn't identify. Yeah, that's an unidentified aerial threat. Or if we have some type of craft that crashed, that's an unidentified aerial threat, no different than when our stealth fighter crashed overseas. It's an unidentified aerial threat, bro. They wouldn't know what it is or what the stealth aircraft is made out of. Like, I really don't understand where people are jumping to where these are aliens. And I don't understand why the Air Force, who has this huge budget, couldn't figure out what kind of metal alloy it was. But the $22 million grant would help them figure it out, right? That's what, like, makes no sense, Dave.
I get that.
I mean, we spent
I still
trillions
think
in the U.S. military, but we needed
Yes.
the $20 million to Bigelow to figure out, hey, what is this?
I agree with you. I think that number of 22 million is a false number. It sounds way too low for this type of program. If it was 22 billion, I would get that. I could justify that, even a couple $1 billion. But 22 million, I mean, how many rolls of toilet paper does that buy Bigelow's offices? Let's be honest here, okay? Yeah. The point that I am getting at right now is, I think we can agree that 22 million is probably not the real number, or just the number that they showed on the books. Right?
Well, that's fine.
Right.
So now we know that the government's stealing more money from us. So while my neighbor's hungry, the government's stealing more money.
Yeah, but they've never hid that, Tim. They've never hid that. Look at the trillions that go missing. How do you pay $1,800 for a hammer? Or $1 million?
Where's the money missing, though? You've got to show me an article that says this money is missing. No different than under Barack Obama. Yeah, there was billions of dollars that disappeared. Hey, there was the pallets of $100 bills that we sent to Iran. Where did that money come from? Yeah, there is money that disappears all the time. And you know when we get mad? When we find out where it went. And here's an example. They gave $22 million to a billionaire. That's what we found out. And they even tried to hide it. And it didn't come out until Harry Reid wanted to help John Podesta and Tom DeLonge raise money for investments in a book company. That's what we're looking at. And in fact, George Knapp from Coast to Coast AM hid that from the public so Tom could raise money on investments in his book company and to replenish debt that he took from a hot dog stand company. That's what we have, and that's what I'm looking at. That's the reality of it. There is no aliens. The study proved there was nothing. They studied these metal alloys that you're talking about and found nothing. That's also what the article says. So that's what we're looking at. Disclosure of a grant. Good job.
Let's get to Andrew's question here for a second. He is saying, do you think this kind of story is an attempt to test the range of the public's paradigm of these matters?
No, I think it's an attempt to destroy the UFO community. In fact, we're even looking at they're trying to rename it. So they're trying to even destroy the name of, like, UFO. It is, I mean, I agree with Dr. Stephen Greer, if anybody wants to go check it out, that this is that false flag disinformation campaign. It's to make someone like Tom DeLonge, who is so interested in this topic, and anyone else from inside the government willing to disclose classified information. Of course, we know that all these people worked inside the government, so they're all disclosing classified information to Tom DeLonge, which is highly illegal, especially if they're doing any type of aerospace research. Tom's vice president, Harold Puthoff, is well known for working in physics and such, and he was doing classified research for the government. Here's another gentleman who's probably leaking classified information from the government. So I think there are people watching him and watching the minions around him who are trying to make money, because I'm sure all of these people are getting paid, especially Mr. Puthoff, who has shares in the To the Stars company. And the government's going to ruin them. So the government's going to give them some hoax videos, and that's exactly why UFO Seekers shoots our videos firsthand. So you're not going to see me share a video with you from someone I don't know or a government who might be trying to hoax me and tell you it's aliens or tell you it's from another planet. I actually go to the place myself and hold the camera in my hand myself, and everything we capture is done by us. And that's the only validity people are going to find in this kind of community. You can't have validity in people who reshare others' content. The only validity is going to come from the first-hand experiencers who can do it themselves. And that's where the trust comes in and the credibility. I mean, the fact that Leslie Keane, who's written these articles, shared the Chilean Navy video, which came out to be a hoax, I think it's funny that no one brings that up. I mean, that just shows how in the UFO community you can say whatever you want, and if it's clickbait for today and get some views, and we falsely convert some people to believe in it, hey, that's great. But that's what they believe. Me, when I look at a person and I think about their religion or their politics or the type of person they are, people don't change, Dave. people are like who they are, and that's what's great about them. People have different opinions. They have different religious views, different political views. I spent 6 years studying religious theology, and like I said, I also have time working in politics. I will promise your listeners this. You are never going to walk up to somebody and convert them. You're not going to, be on one side of the political aisle and walk up to somebody and turn them into you and your politics. Everyone has their own opinion. You're not going to knock on someone's door and convert them into your religion, because people have their own unique views. They might be into their own religion. And so that's what we're seeing, is these Tom DeLonge people trying to convert us into their view of this phenomenon. And that's what Bigelow Aerospace found, nothing. I mean, that's what the story says. Yeah, they studied these metal alloys, and they found nothing. And that's what I'm supposed to believe now. I believe the government has more. I believe the government is hiding more. I don't believe the Tom DeLonge story that they had to have this little $20 million grant because the Air Force doesn't know nothing and the Air Force doesn't care about things in the sky. And I guess the Air Force just fires pilots if they see something. Oh, my God. I don't believe that. I believe there's more going on. I believe in the military-industrial complex, and there's more below the surface. I believe 98% of our military isn't on the surface of the earth. They're down below. So when you go to a place like Area 51 and you're looking at the base, or you go to Edwards Air Force Base or China Lake or Fort Irwin or Vandenberg or Fort Hunter Liggett or the Los Angeles Air Force Base, yes, there's still an Air Force Base in Los Angeles. It's actually where Space Command was invented. It's all below the surface. I mean, Northrop Grumman has its biggest production facility next to LAX. Dude, it's a block from LAX. The building's gigantic. Oh, do they just push the parts out on the road? I mean, does Northrop Grumman give all its secrets to Harry Reid? No. There's secrets and stuff hidden below the earth. The government has highways under the ground. The government has railways under the ground. I believe the military has underground facilities that are so big. There's fake sunlight, there's grasses, there's sports fields, and there's whole communities living under the ground that all started in the 50s when they were scared of the nuclear war. And that's what's going on. And I also believe the government is 40 to 50 years ahead in its technology.
I agree.
I've seen videos. Yeah, I've seen videos of, it was like this 3-foot object that was shaped like a cigar. And it had these little propulsion jets on it. And the military was testing it in this small room, and no different than a satellite in space has little propulsion jets that shoot in different directions, right? Or the little propulsion jet can kind of shift back and forth. This one had static jets all over it, but it was only like 3 feet by 2 feet big, with these most powerful little jet engines you've ever seen. And this craft, the jets pointed up, they pointed down, they pointed to the side, and this cigar-shaped object could shoot up in a second. It could spin around using the jet propulsion, but still in the oxygenated atmosphere, not out in space. There are things going on that our military is doing that Harry Reid has no freaking comprehension. And I despise the way he looks at our military. If he thinks that our military, and Tom DeLonge thinks our government doesn't look for threats, doesn't search around for unidentified stuff, it's a joke. And that's only because they want to sell books. And I guarantee you, Leslie Kean, who wrote those articles, is selling a book with Tom in the future. And I know because George Knapp, who was promoting him, got outed by Joe Rogan and is writing a book with Tom. So
absolutely, my friend,
needs to slow down.
My friend, we are, Tim, an interesting 2 hours with you, buddy. I do have to say this before we go, because I know you got to get going. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and all the best during the holidays, and we will talk to you very soon in January of 2018. Thank you for everything you do for this show, my friend.
You too, Dave. Merry Christmas, buddy.
All right. Tim Doyle from UFOseekers.com. An interesting 2 hours. Coming up in hour number 3, we have Michael W. Hall and Peter Davenport from UFO I-Team in Washington State. We're continuing the UFO talk right after this.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on spacedoutradio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you're seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at spacedoutradio.com.
We are lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the second hour of, or make that the third hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we're going all over the board. We always do. We never go scripted when Ian Holt is here, movie producer, award-winning writer, and music guy. Loves his rap music. Don't understand it, but Ian is one of our good friends around here. He will come on in, say hello to all of you at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're also live on The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, and it is Phenomenology. Phenomenology is your password. Yes, Phenomenology. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. We're on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio. So you go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Take you right there. Please subscribe to that. We have a GoFundMe page going. Go to GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. You can help us build our brand new studio here. We would appreciate the help and the efforts from you, the great audience. I know it's Christmas time, but, you know, it's just popped up, and this is something that we need to do to get more terrestrial on the air. We would appreciate your help. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com, where you have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Watch UFO Seekers and Contact TV videos. Read up on the Encounter online. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. For hour number 3, we have Peter Davenport and Michael W. Hall from the UFO I-Team in Washington State. Now, I'm not sure about Peter yet, but I know Michael is going to stick around for one more hour. We're going into overtime tonight. This subject is way too busy, way too much to talk about. We need to go into overtime. Michael's agreed. We're going to find out from Peter as well. He is more than welcome to stick around, but that's up to him because it is late. Gentlemen, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
Thank you, Dave. It's nice to be here. This is Peter speaking, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm looking forward to this hour, and a lot of stuff is going on, so this is a delightful opportunity to share with an audience some of the interesting facets of ufology.
You have
Dave.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, Dave, I just wanted to say I can't imagine a better time or place to spend this historic event with disclosure happening with you on your show and with Peter Davenport as well. This is fantastic.
I think it is as well. Gentlemen, I want to get into this right off the bat here because our first guest, Tim Doyle, kind of leans on the side that this is all an anomaly. It's a little bit of fake news mixed in with some conjecture. How are you looking at this, Peter, in regards to what happened this past weekend?
Well, I'm looking at it from a guarded position. We've had a lot of false starts in the field of ufology, a lot of dramatic claims and seemingly dramatic events that didn't pan out in the final analysis. But this one looks to be a good one with regard to the fact that it's official government personnel who are making these statements now. The thing that hasn't been said that I've heard, at least to date, is why now? Why just before Christmas in 2017? It makes me wonder whether there might have been events take place in the recent past that the government thought might force its hand, so they decided to take the initiative and go public with this issue.
Do you think it had anything to do with just within the last couple of weeks, Donald Trump wanting to get back to the moon?
I doubt it. I doubt that any visitors to our planet, call them aliens if you will, are in the least concerned with what the U.S. government pontificates on or any official statements they make. What I was alluding to in my last statement, and I really didn't finish the thought so that our audience can understand what I was getting at. On the 9th of December, there was a very dramatic event that occurred over and across the United States. It was Saturday night, and the U.S. Air Force has declared that it was nothing but a flight of C-17 military heavy transport airplanes that were flying from South Carolina to Nevada to drop some paratroopers. But that doesn't seem to fit from my vantage point, and it looks like fairly veneer disinformation. Makes me wonder whether that very dramatic event on Saturday night might have had or might have caused some change in the attitude of the government on this issue.
So do you believe then that this article in the New York Times was a good thing for the public to hear? I'm talking the mainstream public, Peter. Or do you think that this is going to get swept under the rug like the media does so quickly with stories these days?
Well, it's going to be hard for the New York Times to go back in a box. They've taken a position now. They've put 3 good writers on it. I know Leslie Kane. She's a very responsible, very capable person and a good writer. So it's hard for me to imagine that they could rein in this story and make it disappear. This might be the beginning of something pretty dramatic.
Michael, I want to get your thoughts on that because you and I talked earlier today about this, and you were pretty much hopping with excitement in regards to everything that has happened.
Oh, yeah, this is an historic event, I think, and I think that we need to put it back into perspective. This is massive. This is the actual mainstream media. The New York Times picked up by all the other mainstream media outlets that this thing is actually a reality. The phenomena itself, UFOs. The black budget monies that were spent on trying to find out whether they were aerial threats or not. It's amazing. I mean, the fact that this thing. Well, I remember you were mentioning to me before your friend Grant Cameron, the famous Canadian ufologist, mentioned that January of 2016 there was some kind of a high-level meeting that some of his sources had told him about, that there was a decision made that disclosure had to happen, and it was put on a fast track for some reason. Then, of course, in May, if everyone remembers, when Bob Bigelow actually appeared on 60 Minutes of all shows and actually told the American public through the interview that aliens existed. He had no problem with the fact that aliens existed, and he believed that. Now, in October, of course, Tom DeLonge comes on and does his thing with his ex-government insiders, and now it's the mainstream media, the New York Times, backing all of this up. So there seems to be an agenda that's happening, and it's be interesting. I think Peter's question of why now is probably the most pertinent one.
Agenda aside, Peter, do you believe that this is some sort of vindication for people who have seen anomalous entities in the sky, but more so for people who have had abduction or contact experiences?
Yeah, it seems to vindicate or justify a lot of these reports and claims that people have made. I'm a little hesitant about the abduction phenomenon, alleged abduction phenomenon. I believe it's taking place. There are vastly more people who claim or who think they've experienced one of those events than actually have, I believe, but it's not within my ability to be able to distinguish those people. It would take a great deal of interviewing and investigation to satisfy that question. But yeah, it's vindication for all those people who've been placing reports to organizations like the National UFO Reporting Center or MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. This claim, this revelation, finally, I think you put it correctly, Dave, it gives them vindication. And it's going to be very difficult for the government to backpedal on this one now that there's been semi-official admission that this phenomenon is real and it's with us here and now.
Michael, do you feel that the people that you have talked to who are experiencers feel some sort of vindication?
Well, actually it's happened so quickly over the last couple of days and, of course, the weekend, and it's just before the holidays that, to tell you the truth, I think it hasn't even sunk into some of the folks I've talked with. When I'm telling just the general John Q. public what's going on, they didn't really understand what that was. They'd heard of something in the New York Times, but they didn't kind of get into the details of it. And of course, anybody who's into ufology for a period of time, once they found out that this actually happened, it was just a major event in their mind, because obviously people have been wanting something like this, anything like a crumb of some kind of vindication or information or confirmation from the government. And the mainstream media. See, the mainstream media has this, as I mentioned in this New York Times article, they have always tried to avoid the stigma of this subject, and now it's been totally blown open. I can't imagine what's going to happen within the next few days and weeks now with the other things that supposedly are going to be disclosed. I think this is just the beginning.
I talked to Grant Cameron. He was actually messaging me during the first hour of the show saying that there is much more to come. He was saying that they are about to show the hardware that they have, more films, 38 reports, most over 100 pages, and one up to 490 pages. Is this the start, Peter, of full-on disclosure?
Well, I'm pleased to know that, and given that it comes from Grant, I suspect it's perfectly accurate and correct. He's a very qualified investigator. I don't know what it's leading to, but I get the sense, like Michael, that this is the first important step in what will, in the final analysis, be a series of revelations about the UFO phenomenon. I'm delighted. I think I'm delighted that the government has finally decided to open up its archives and let us mere citizens, so to speak, share in this information. It's exactly what ufologists, UFO investigators have been hoping would happen for well nigh on 70 years now. So we've been hoping for it. I think we should probably be delighted that it's about to take place, or seems to. Again, I don't think they're going to be able to reverse it. And by the way, with regard to your question regarding vindication for those people who've experienced abductions or had UFO sightings, all of this publicity has apparently caused a lot of people to suddenly either remember their sightings or become willing to write them down and submit them, because I've been flooded with reports in which people allude to the recent news media coverage of this event. So I think it lends credibility, or it lends support to your statement, Dave.
Well, as an experiencer, I look at this in two ways. I look at it from the experiencer way, and I look at it from a journalism way. The experiencer in me is very excited because a lot of us can now tell people, I told you so. I had one of my good friends today who's a big skeptic. He's like, wow, I never thought I would see that happen. And this is a guy I used to work with in radio. And I said, told you, right? And it felt good. I felt happy about that. But on the journalistic side, I see so much wrong with the way this entire platform has been set up that to me it looks like there is something scandalous behind this. Whether it's Robert Bigelow, whether it's Tom DeLonge, whether it's the former senators involved, including Harry Reid, who happens to be the only one left alive, it just doesn't seem smooth. Am I looking at this, Peter, in a healthy direction, or am I way off base here?
Well, I'll comment on it, and then I'd like to hear what Michael has to say. Michael, an attorney, of course. But I share your concerns. I'm a skeptical person by nature. I was born in the state of Missouri 69 years ago, the show me state, and I want to see all the evidence before I believe it, and want to see it with my own eyes. But there seem to be some anomalies. You've focused on one of them, and that is the involvement of Bob Bigelow in all of this. He's a very influential guy, very wealthy, but what he has to do with the Department of Defense is still unclear to me. He apparently has some kind of project together, a joint project with NASA, but why he would be cited in an official government revelation about UFOs is unclear to me. There are a lot of other people who have a lot more experience in the field who've been investigating this subject for, in my case, close to 50 years. My first sighting was in 54. So there are a lot of other people who seem to fit more appropriately than Bigelow does in this debate.
Michael, what is your thoughts?
You know, it's. I remember when Art Bell, back in the old days, wrote the book "The Quickening." The whole idea of things just happening faster and faster and kind of snowballing, a snowball effect. And I haven't been in this field as long as Peter Davenport has, for sure, but it's been a good 30 years for me anyway. And I just get the feeling that in the last few years that there has been a push for some reason, and it doesn't seem to be a push that the government is good at orchestrating. So I believe it's more of a response, kind of like a knee-jerk reaction to certain pressures that are coming at them for some reason. And I can only think maybe it's off-world. I mean, there's got to be a reason why these things are happening so quickly now. And And like you said, it doesn't seem to be as smooth as we would think it could be. And it seems to be a jerking stutter step as well. But in any case, something is definitely happening. And if you take a look at the community out there, for instance, the anonymous community, QAnon, and some of these postings that are going on 4chan, 8chan, and some of these, they call them bakers out there that are actually doing the research on who's telling what stories. All these stories seem to be collecting together recently, and we're kind of in what they call a holding pattern for the next 8 days now, with the new Q droppings supposedly going to be coming out on Christmas Day or the day after, which is supposedly an insider in the government administration who kind of is telling people ahead of time that things are happening and that things are going to be exciting. I don't know what's going to go on, but I'm waiting.
Michael, I want to ask you a legal question because Tim Doyle brought something up earlier that it didn't make much sense to me, and I'm not trying to discredit what he said, but I'm very curious about this. He said that private companies should not be involved, and I'm paraphrasing here, and Tim, if you're listening, I hope I don't get this wrong, that private companies like Bigelow Aerospace shouldn't be involved with such black projects if they are that much into national security like the UFO phenomenon. And the way it makes it sound through the New York Times article is that they handed over potentially alien metals and material to Bigelow's team to research in order to keep it out of the FOIA reports. Is that legal?
Whether it's legal or not, it happens all the time. Let's put it that way. Definitely, these are kinds of things that the government does nowadays, hiring black ops contractors to fight their own wars, those kinds of issues. So it is something that's becoming more and more pervasive, let's say, and it gets around certain laws that are in effect and restrictive in our country. And if nothing else that comes out of this New York Times article should be a little healthy concern about the American public looking at how these private contractors like Bigelow Aerospace or whatever are using our taxpayer money. But by the way, just to put that in perspective, $22 million over, when I looked at it, it's basically over about a little over 3 years. They went through the 22 million supposedly. When you compare that to the $600 billion budget for the military, it's so minuscule. It's not even it's basically less than 1/100% of 1% of the budget. So, these kinds of things, if they're that small and being done, can you imagine what they're doing with even more larger budgets that we have no clue about? And that's why this audit, of the military and black budget is kind of an interesting phenomena, whether it could actually happen.
No, I understand that, and I don't believe that 22 million number at all. I think that's just the number that they put on the book, so that way they wouldn't be embarrassed by the mainstream media who takes these subjects to be very, very ignorant, shall we say.
Yeah.
The mainstream media is extremely ignorant when it comes to these topics. Peter, I want to bring you in here for a second. Do you think that these budgets, or this budget of 22 million, was just a false flag type number?
Well, I don't know. Before I could answer the question, I'd have to have some personal experience or some good evidence as to whether that's an accurate figure or not. And regrettably, I don't have that information yet. I hope it comes to fore. I think Michael's point is a good one. I'm the type that I don't believe anything the government says anymore, whether it has to do with finances or policies or laws or anything else that I can't confirm with my own eyes. But I'd like to go back just briefly to a comment your earlier comment, Dave, with regard to apparent anomalies or suspected anomalies in this torrent of information that seems to have come out recently, and that is Mr. I think his name is pronounced Elizondo, the gentleman who worked for the organization called AATIP. The one curious thing about his departure from government is that he left the government one day, and the next day he was part of Tom DeLonge's group revealing what the government knew, or the fact that the government did know about the UFO phenomenon. That is a very sudden change. I once did have a top secret security clearance, and it was years before I could say anything, and I was just an E5 in the U.S. Army Security Agency. It's very unusual to have somebody who heads up a department to leave the government and the next morning be talking about the UFO phenomenon. I don't think he could have done that without official permission probably from the White House, or certainly from the Secretary of Defense. So I tend to agree with you that there's something unusual about the flood of information that we've been assaulted with here recently.
Do you think that amount of information is healthy for the public? Because we seem to have a very confused media right now. We have some media who are taking this story very seriously and reporting it the way it should, as in reality, as I said earlier in the show, Mr. Davenport, that next to Jesus Christ coming down from the heavens above, aliens and UFOs are the second biggest story in mankind's history.
Yeah.
So do you feel, because we're still getting reports that normally happen with UFO sightings, whereas, we have the reporters and the anchors making a little bit of a mockery of it. So the media, even in the mainstream, even seems to be divided down the middle.
Yeah. Well, I've made the point that UFOs should be shared with the American people because it's the most important scientific question that's ever confronted mankind, namely, are we alone or are we not? And I think it's now time for the American people to be brought into this debate. No matter what the ramifications might be, I think perhaps in another type of political structure, it would be justified for the government to conceal this evidence from its people. In a country like ours, which has representatives of the people in government, I believe they are duty-bound to share what they know on this subject, no matter what the outcome might be. That's my opinion.
So do you feel that the media is being played on this subject, then, from what you have seen so far?
I don't know. It's hard for me to know, not being a part of the group that's revealing the information and handling the information and writing the articles. All I can do is conjecture, and I rather hesitate to do that without really a solid foundation to speak from.
How about you, Michael? Do you believe the media is being played here?
Well, I think they're obviously being used, that's for sure. You don't have up till this point, you never had the New York Times come forth and make these kinds of statements. So obviously someone has been giving them the green light, encouragement, and obviously there's an agenda there somewhere. So when that extends to the general media now, that's going to be interesting, because to see if the lesser newspapers and outlets and news agencies will follow suit now and feel comfortable with even getting into a debate. I think that would be healthy, because the debate has never been there, never been allowed in the past. And but like I said, I think there is a push from somewhere that's forcing this issue. And so I think, like it or not, these mainstream media outlets are going to be grappling with this subject that they've never really been comfortable doing before. And so they're they're going to be. It's going to be interesting to find out that all these people now that have never talked about this and scoffed about it in the past, well, now some of them become experts in this field, and they'll be talking heads on the 6 o'clock news and 11 o'clock news like we've never seen it before.
You know what? You make such a good point there, because I was just shaking my head in all of the news reports that I watched on this in the last 48 hours. All I saw was these former military officials who are the experts to the media outlets, and they're talking about UFOs like it's no big deal, like they've been talking about this subject for years. And maybe they have behind the scenes, but I didn't see people like Mr. Davenport or Grant Cameron or Stanton Friedman or Mike Barra or Richard Dolan or any of the big names on any of the major networks saying, this is what we've been telling you. Do you think that was, Mr. Davenport, a way for the media to try and save face so us ufologists don't get in their face and say, I've been telling you for 30, 40 years. Why haven't you listened?
Yeah. Well, I had that reaction, that gut reaction to all of this news that we've been confronted with. I'm a little surprised. You've made an excellent point, Dave. They should have included people like Richard Dolan. They did include Leslie Kean, who's a major author in the field, but they should have included Stanton Friedman and people like Dr. Mark Rodiger. There are a lot of names I could name, people who have a great deal of experience who should have been incorporated into the announcement to temper government statements and vet them, if you will, from the standpoint of ufologists. That didn't happen, and that's a very good observation on your part, I feel.
Well, Leslie Kean, I worry about her. The reason why I do is she is very tied to Tom DeLonge and the To the Stars campaign, whether it's book writing or whether it's the articles. So that now makes me think on a journalistic level that she's not going down the middle. She's already chosen sides.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Leslie had done that. She's a consummate professional from everything I've seen over the last 2 decades or more. A very dedicated journalist. She's very bright and very well informed in this field. I don't know what her position is. I can't speak on her behalf, of course, but I would be very surprised if she would have allowed herself to be taken into one side or the other of this debate without maintaining her independence, as a journalist has to do. I've heard her on radio talking about the Tom DeLonge announcement, and I felt she was quite balanced and looking at it from afar, if you will. So I don't know for sure. I haven't talked to Leslie about it. I haven't talked to her in a number of years, I think, but I hold her in such high regard, I would be surprised if she allowed herself to be compromised in that manner.
George Knapp did, though. He's writing a book with DeLonge. DeLonge is publishing.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I did hear that, Michael, and wasn't thinking of that when I made my comment about Leslie, but I don't know. I'm would be surprised if these people would throw their lot in with a group without knowing a great deal about them.
Mr. Davenport, I have a question for you from Andrew on Twitter. He is saying Wernher von Braun is known as the father of rocket science and the NASA space program. He claimed that a series of false flag events would happen, including a final false flag ET invasion, which would allow more control of the populace. Do you think this could be building to an apparent disclosure to be part of a possible coming false flag event of an ET invasion like von Braun warned of?
Yeah, it could be. In fact, I was thinking about the possibility that this revealing of UFO data might even have been prompted by the presence of an alien force on this planet, because of the fine work that has been done by Michael Jacobs and so on, David Jacobs, I'm sorry. We know that these aliens can influence individuals and their actions, and I think it seems unlikely to me, but one possibility we have to consider is that the aliens are driving this agenda. That would put the U.S. government and other governments in a very difficult position to combat it. I don't think they could, but it's a possibility that I think all of us have to keep in the forefront of our minds.
So are you saying, if I heard you correctly, you think that this actually could be a play from alien species, whoever we're in contact with, saying, humans, it's time?
Well, I've long wondered about the U.S. government. It does from my vantage point, some seemingly strange things that I don't understand. And it has always been in the back of my mind that some of these things could be being dictated to members of our government, perhaps even being blackmailed. For example, a simplistic example, if you will, the alien force or alien presence tries to induce government officials to do one thing or another for God only knows what purpose, and the government officials balk, and the aliens respond by saying, well, we'll make an airplane disappear just to show you what kind of power we have on this planet. A purely hypothetical structure I've presented here, but I think it's not unrealistic to address the question of whether our government might be being manipulated by an alien force that's already on the planet.
Michael, what's your take on what Peter has to say?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's one scenario that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Obviously, we are living in times that are interesting, as the old Chinese proverb says, but it's even more interesting within the last few years and months. And the scenario of some kind of outside force pulling strings, whether they're good or bad, by the way. Of course, you've got some people saying that there are benevolent beings trying to keep us or bring us into a higher consciousness level. And the whole thing is tied together, as Grant Cameron mentions, to consciousness. And that is something that needs to happen eventually for us anyway. So whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it looks like there's somebody pulling some strings. The whole issue, the fact that this last election went the way it did, is unusual. Let's put it that way. And there's a reason why I think Donald Trump was elected president. I can't imagine that if everything was going along the way it used to be in the old days, that Donald Trump would have been elected president. So there seems to be some exterior forces kind of pushing us in a certain direction.
Peter, I have a question for you from Joe in our chat room, who is asking, have you ever seen a UFO?
I have indeed, or what I think was a genuine UFO, that is an alien spacecraft. My first sighting, and it, I believe, explains why I'm on this program tonight together with Michael, is back in the summer of 1954, I believe it was. I was at a drive-in theater at the St. Louis airport in St. Louis, Missouri, where I was raised as a boy. And I was at a drive-in theater on the south side of the airport and saw a doozy of a UFO. And I'm satisfied, I feel quite justified in using that term, because literally hundreds of people at that drive-in theater were getting out of their cars to look at this object that was hovering just south of the St. Louis airport. We discovered later when we picked up my father, who was working in the air traffic control tower that was on the north side of the airport at that time, that they had been looking at the object with binoculars from the control tower as well. So people can read my. I have I have written up my sighting report. I would not be able to be on a program if I hadn't written the report and posted it to my own website. People can read it. I also heard a UFO, October 10th of 1988, I believe it was, and people can read that incident in the Ballard section of Seattle. I was sitting with a friend in my living room, and an object went directly over the house at a very high speed or high angular velocity. And it was the strangest sound I think I've ever heard in my life. I can't imagine that it could have been any kind of conventional aircraft that I'm aware of. Not a helicopter, not an airplane, not a jet, and I think it was something very unusual. I've had other sightings as well.
Now, Michael, you've had a number of sightings, especially recently, up in the northern part of Washington State near Mount Baker.
Oh, yeah, we have, for sure. Matter of fact, the organization that I'm a part of, the UFO I-Team, has really some amazing footage, actually, of, let me just describe one visual sighting that we had reported to. We go and have town meetings in little communities or wherever we're at and ask for people's reports. And we literally have 50 to 100, sometimes more than that, people show up at the town meeting and want to tell us their sighting reports. This real quick one is a local motorcyclist, a biker guy, was coming home in a small community up in the mountains by Mount Baker at midnight. He's coming down the road, it's totally pitch black, and he says that over the top of his head, coming from behind him, was a triangular-shaped pyramid, and it was glowing in an orange color. And it went over in front of him down the highway and then took a left and hovered over what they call the Nooksack River in that area of Mount Baker. And it actually let down some tentacles into the water and started slurping water up from the river into the craft. And, of course, after a few moments, he gets off his bike and he's watching. He's trying to find anyone else that will be able to see this with him. There's no traffic coming, no one living in that area. And after the craft did what it did with the water, it drew up the tentacles into the craft, started moving off down the river. And he says, this report says there were 2 Black Hawk helicopters came out of the middle of nowhere, chased this thing, and it disappeared in a probably 10-mile course in 1 or 2 seconds. That's a little community in northern Washington State that has one report that we've been uncovering. And by the way, Dave, if you have an opportunity, this is a perfect time for everyone to go to, or at least tell them about Peter Davenport's National UFO Reporting Center website, because it is just a treasure trove of information, and if they ever see something themselves, they can go right there and make a report.
Excellent. Excellent. And we can give that pretty frequently as well. Did I ever tell you that Samantha Mowat, who has been a guest on this show, I think she is one of the best kept secrets in ufology, good friend of ours, that her, myself, my wife, and our 2 daughters actually watched 3 UFOs on Mount Baker from our side of the border, because where I lived in Mission, British Columbia, our house had a great view of Mount Baker because we were up on a hill, so we got the entire northwest side of the mountain. And we actually watched 3 different UFOs, 1 at the top and 2 at a lower peak, that were just kind of hovering there, and they were flashing from white to blue to red to orange type lights. And this was right at dusk time.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, so
the objects below the horizon, Dave, or above the horizon? Do you recall?
Below
the horizon. So they couldn't have been twinkling stars or celestial bodies.
There wasn't even stars out yet. It was about 8 o'clock on a September night, so it's just starting to get dark.
Yeah.
You know?
Was that this year or in a year past?
No, this was, I believe, in 2014.
Yeah. Yep. I hear those stories quite frequently, and the point I always make on programs like this is I estimate that out of 20,000 sightings like yours, or 20,000 witnesses like those with you during that sighting, only one out of 20,000 adult, competent, clear-thinking Americans who believes he's seen a UFO will ever come forward. And I suspect that we're capturing only about 1 in 100,000 sightings because most people, even the ones who call the hotline, will not follow up with a written report, but a written report, a written statement in which the witnesses capture the information surrounding their sighting. Most people don't follow up with those written reports, so all the time we have spent with them on the telephone is really wasted time. So it's a point I'd like to make to our audience. If they've ever, at any time in their life, whether 8 minutes ago or 8 decades ago, believe they've seen a UFO, we would like to have them report it not only to the National UFO Reporting Center, but MUFON and any other local UFO authority in their area.
Peter, I'm very curious, getting back to the entire topic about what happened over this weekend, I'm sure you've spent a lot of time on the phone with a lot of your sources, you know, not just ufologists, but true sources that you've had in the field. What have they been saying to you in regards to what happened this weekend?
Well, most of my calls, tragically, are now prank calls from young American kids, and they're not an authority on anything as far as I can see. I don't think I've had any greater number of calls from serious-minded callers over the last week as I normally have. And I've talked to a lot of people about this phenomenon, this release of data, but I think everybody is our heads are spinning until there's a follow-up and perhaps confirmation from higher in the government, say the Secretary of Defense or the President himself. I think we don't have too much to go on quite yet, as Michael suggested. It's encouraging, it's heartening to see that our government is finally willing to acknowledge that this is a real phenomenon, but I think there's a long way to go before we have everything we would like to have.
Michael, you've obviously been working the phones as well because I know you love this subject. The people whom you have talked to over the last 48 hours, what has been the reaction that you have got from everybody?
They're flabbergasted. It's almost like you've been beating your head against the wall for a long period of time, and all of a sudden you stop and you realize something just major happened. So it's taking shows like your show, and time to talk about it like we're doing tonight to be able to kind of fully digest exactly what's going on here. It's exciting. People are, like I said, flabbergasted, and then now the next step is there's 1,000 questions that they're all asking, and they're all legitimate questions, and this is exactly what's going to be going on with any kind of disclosure, whether it's going to be soft or hard or long range. It's only going to lead to further and further questions when people realize, for instance, wait a minute, you mean we've got metal alloys that we've been that we've got from recovered unidentified aerial craft, and we don't really know what their capabilities are? Just those questions in themselves are going to lead to other questions.
We only got about 5 minutes here before we have to go to break here. Mr. Davenport, you wanted to make a comment?
I was just going to add to Michael's statement that it's going to be very interesting to see what other governments do in response to this recent release of data by the U.S. government. if we see data flooding out of England or Canada or Canadian government files, that's going to suggest to me that this is a signal to other governments that it's time to release the information to their respective populations. I think that's one thing that should be followed quite carefully, is what the British government does and what the Canadian government does, and others as well, Belgium, Chile, perhaps the Soviet Union and China as well.
Other countries, Peter, have been very open with their UFO files. Why does it seem to be so much more and mean so much more now that this is coming from the United States government?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but the United States, of course, is a superpower. It has among the strongest militaries on the planet, probably the strongest, and the fact that they've revealed it is, I think, maybe sending a signal to other countries that it's time to open the files on the UFO phenomenon. The British government, of course, did that. I think it was May 14th of 2008. They said, whereas we've never studied a UFO sighting case before and we're not interested in it, we are nevertheless going to be releasing thousands of such archives over a period of years. So that's a lot of archives to be releasing on a subject that England had ostensibly or reputedly no interest in. Maybe the same thing is going to happen with the U.S. government now. I would like to be able to read their files more than what the CIA just released. And perhaps that recent CIA release of data may have something to do with the publicity that we're getting from these ladies and gentlemen who've come forward recently.
And Michael, do you think that there is a stigma attached that it has to be the United States government that discloses? We only got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I think they're taking the lead and they're keeping everyone in control and in line. And when they make the move, that's going to be the signal that the floodgates will open. Let's face it, there's a reason why they're doing this. They don't want to just do it here in the United States. They obviously probably want to do this worldwide. So, of course, France has already done this. Belgium, of course, has done this in the past. But those are, kind of like small efforts compared to what this could be. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen here worldwide now at this point.
Me too. And, Mike, it's something that it's going to be very interesting to follow. And it's going to be interesting to follow on a number of sides. Number one, how much information is truly released? Are they only going to give us a little bit of snippets and then say, okay, you've had enough, we've given you a little taste, but that's all you need for right now, and then go another 20, 30 years without releasing any more information? There is so much that can happen over the next little while here, let alone the media, which is a complete different story as well. Would you say in about 60 seconds or less, Mike, that there is, a lot of variables that still need to be answered regarding this?
Oh, definitely. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be interesting to see what parameters the media is given on their chewing over these facts, because that's what they need. That's what they do best. They talk. They have talking heads. And when they have something to say, they're going to talk about it this way and that way and for as long as possible. But it'll be interesting to see if they have the real authority to get into the details and ask those tough questions.
I would agree with that. How about you, Mr. Davenport?
Well, the government might pull its reins in after this initial announcement, but if they do so, they're going to risk annoying the New York Times, and they don't want that institution as an enemy.
Isn't that the truth? Gentlemen, you hold on, because we are going to actually step out for a break here at the top of the hour. We're going to overtime. I think we need to go to overtime. I know Michael's going to join us. I'm not sure about Peter Davenport. We'll find out during the break, but it's very important that we continue this ride on SOR, because UFOs is the hot topic right now. We got to make sure that we're getting all facets of the news that broke this weekend in the New York Times, in the Washington Post, as to whether or not disclosure did happen. You are listening to Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott. More with Michael W. Hall and Peter Davenport, hopefully right after this.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on SpacedOutRadio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you're seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at SpacedOutRadio.com.
We are lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to SpacedOutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com.
Story box. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual tea contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast when running wild.
The horn sounds, and that means it's time for overtime here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Ian Holt is going to join us as we take over the night with Ian, paranormal author, Dracula author, movie maker. The man is connected in the music scene. He does a little bit of everything, and it's going to be a fun time chatting with Ian tomorrow night starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone still listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We're still live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We're also still live on the Fringe.fm, Renegade Talk Radio out of Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Phenomenology. Phenomenology is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, all my chatters in Spreaker, I know you're still listening. You guys did a first, and I'm very, very proud of you. For a while there, you guys actually crashed the chat room. I can't believe that. You crashed the chat room. That's absolutely amazing. We've never had that happen before. You have no idea how proud I am of you guys for crashing the chat room with our conversation on UFOs tonight. That's absolutely amazing. Give yourselves a hand, Spreaker chatters, because you did well. You did well. And that is absolutely amazing. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great for the show. Thank you for being that passionate about our subjects. So, Peter Davenport had to leave because he has an early morning tomorrow, but Michael W. Hall from UFO I-Team is sticking with us for the full hour of overtime tonight. We really appreciate everyone sticking around because, Mike, this is a very, very important 48 hours in the field of ufology, something that you are very passionate about, and, you know, this conversation, it just needs to continue.
Oh, this is, I don't know about you, Dave, but this is therapeutic for me. I've been doing this for a long time. I know you have too. And to actually be able to talk about it, to actually massage it, think it over, think of the ramifications that are going to come out of this, which we can't even contemplate at this point. I mean, this is something that over the next few days and weeks, there'll be other things that will happen because of this that we'll be able to go back and point to and say, hey, I was there when this happened. I remember how it started. And it's great to be a part of it. I'm amazed. I am excited.
I am too. I'm wary, though. I'm very wary because I just do not trust the To the Stars campaign, and somehow I think they are going to get credit for this. You know what I'm saying? They're going to get credit. They are going to be, using this to their advantage, saying, we're the ones who did it. We're the ones who brought this out. We told you that we were going to do it, and yet I look at this as something the government released. That they finally decided, okay, it's time for some of these issues to come out. We're tired of being bothered about it. We think that our people are mature enough to learn about what is going on. And, of course, they're going to play the, well, we don't know what it is card. You know what I'm saying? That's their escape. Yeah. That's their escape. Yeah. That's their freedom in getting this. Well, we've been tracking it, but we've only had it happen a handful of times, which we know isn't true. It's funny, though. It's funny, though, they haven't mentioned Roswell, Kecksburg, St. Augustine, and other crash sites. That's what I want to know about. They're starting to open up Pandora's box, but how far do you think they will open that box for the public?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because, indeed, when you open that box, you can't. Peter mentioned this. You can't. It's going to be hard for the government to turn their back now on the New York Times, to leave them in the lurch, for instance. You've got a broadcasting and a journalism degree. I do as well, from Washington State University and out there in Pullman. I actually got my communications undergraduate there. And, there's nothing worse than a really mad journalist. And, obviously, they've been controlled for many, many years. But when you leave them hanging out to dry, that's the worst place you want to leave them. So I'm kind of cautious, like you mentioned. But also, I'm just thinking, once you open that can of worms and you start disclosing certain things, I've always said that there are going to be follow-up questions that have to be answered. And people will be asking questions that they had no clue that they're even going to ask, just because of some of the interesting information that's being disclosed on a maybe a piecemeal basis. Like we were mentioning, this does not seem to be really well thought out, although in the background maybe it is. And whether it was Tom DeLonge's organization or somebody else, they had to start somehow. And I think that I'm not worried at all that this is going to be, something that they're going to take and run with as far as DeLonge's organization is concerned, because I believe, down the road, this is going to be much, much bigger than any one organization anyway. So I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen next.
Well, I think we all are, because there's so many questions that came out of that article. Okay, let's get back to the Robert Bigelow thing and his involvement with this. Is it? And I know you mentioned earlier that the government is doing it all the time, finding private contractors for whatever the topic may be, from farming to military-industrial projects. I get that and I understand that. But when you have someone like Robert Bigelow, who's tied into the Skinwalker Ranch, who's tied into the aerospace, which is trying to get, technology in order to get deep into space, is it a little eerie that he is involved in the backgrounds with anything to do with the Department of Defense and the Pentagon?
Well, yes, and I'll tell you why. I've got an interesting story that Peter and I actually 20 years ago dealt with as far as Bob Bigelow and the NIDS organization that he was in charge of at that point. It's a little bit of a story, but I think it would be advantageous to kind of bring it out now to tell you what my concerns are with Mr. Bigelow. Obviously he can do things that other people cannot because of his position and his power at this point. But back in the old days, when anybody reported a UFO to any of the FAA towers around the country, at all the airports, military, commercial, or whatever, there was an actual FAA manual that the employees would follow, and they would actually have listed in the manual the National UFO Reporting Center and the phone number that they could tell people to call if they thought they saw a UFO, because that's the first call that people usually make when they see something strange is to their local FAA tower, airport tower. What happened back in those days was that Robert Bigelow, through his organization, actually purchased the FAA manual and republished it and took out Peter Davenport's phone number, put in the NIDS phone number to make sure that all the reports went to NIDS. And, of course, back then, and that's basically the way they operated, NIDS did not share the information with anyone. So Peter Davenport has always been out front. Whatever reports come into his organization, he posts them on the website immediately. People know what kind of information comes into the National UFO Reporting Center. So anyway, I've been his lawyer for over 25 years now, and back then we actually went head-to-head with the U.S. Air Force and the as it was actually the Air Force and the Federal Aviation Administration over their manual, and successfully won an equal protection U.S. constitutional argument to get them to put UFO, National UFO I-Team back in. And we didn't care if NIDS was there, but we wanted to make sure that the UFO National UFO Reporting Center was there because they disclosed all the information that came to them. So I'm a little worried, of course, that Bob Bigelow is involved only because whatever he finds out, obviously he has no compunction that he doesn't necessarily have to share that information.
And I understand that, and I can understand why they turned it over to him, because if this is a black ops project, which is debatable, Tim Doyle in the first 2 hours doesn't believe it is. I tend to believe it is. All right? Yeah. I'm not sure where you're falling on that. But if this is a black ops project, the only way to keep it out of the government's hands and the public's eyes is to put it in a subcontractor's pocket, so that way they are able to hide it from the Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And, obviously, this is a little bit more than just a grant. This is an actual government program that was ran out of the Pentagon, let's put it that way. So in reality, they have all the ability they want to keep it black and go as deep as they need as far as the information. And that also then brings up the whole interesting issue is why the heck are they now telling us about this? Because obviously there's been some pressure on them to be able to share this information somehow with the American public, even though it's dribbles at this point. I think the spigot is going to start running faster and faster as more information gets leaked out.
I agree with you. But it's still a little bit eerie that someone like Bigelow has his fingers on this, because in reality, the billionaire has amazingly kept his hands clean, even though everybody knows he's dipping his fingers into the cookie jar.
Yeah. Well, let's think of it this way. Would you rather have someone like Robert Bigelow, who we probably know a little bit more about than some black ops organization head who we have no clue about and or have no accountability as well? I don't know. It's a toss-up on who do you want to be in charge of this kind of a program. And as long as they go heading in the same direction that they're headed now, I'm just excited to find out. I mean, as a lawyer, when you enter a case, you have little information to begin with, and as the things start stack up, and you put things down on paper, and you start checking things out and cross-referencing things, the big picture, actually happens.
Do you think there are other agencies involved with this decision? Because we know the Pentagon is involved, we know the CIA is involved, but you think it would have to go through a vast number of channels in order to say, yes, let's release this to the public?
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah, it's not just the White House. I would imagine it's not just the Department of Defense as well. So this is a group of, let's put it this way. The MJ-12 organization was made up of some interesting folks from various government agencies. So I would imagine that there's got to be something similar to that going on right now.
And that's the concern, is a decision like this, if I'm correct, wouldn't it be planned years in advance? Like, this isn't something that they would take 2-3 months to get clearance.
No, you would think. Definitely.
Mike Gregg is sleeping below you.
Okay, thank you.
That was awesome. Hello, Mrs.
Yeah, that was the voice of the voice of the powers that be there. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
Hello. Would you like to talk UFOs with us too?
Okay, we'll keep going here.
We all have one, and I have to watch because right above my studio, Mrs. SOR is sleeping. So sometimes during overtime, I gotta bring it down a little bit. But sometimes I don't care because I'm so excited. Very excited about the topic. But anyways, how long do you think a decision like this is needed in order to be made public?
I get the feeling that they make these decisions long term, kind of generally long term, and then they're reacting as they go. There's got to be some kind of a pressure upon them at one point to make certain decisions quicker than other decisions. I just get the feeling with things happening so quickly on the internet and more disclosures kind of being leaked. It started with WikiLeaks and, John Podesta emails and all sorts of kinds of things. So you would think that those things don't happen just by chance. But obviously, then they react to certain things that happen as well. And of course, I think sometimes they do things to distract from other things, just to keep people kind of from the main topic that they don't want us to discuss as well. So you never know what kind of thing out there is being disinformation as well as dribbling information.
Right, and I fully understand that, and I get that, but I guess, we all have to try and put a timeline on this, especially if they've made the decision on what to release. I'm thinking this has probably taken years. I'm not saying maybe a decade. I think that would be too long. I would say anywhere between 2 to 5 years on what should be released. I mean, if they're only showing us a video from 2004, which technically had already been released, and the story had been released as of October 11th by Lou Elizondo, I think it's something. I think it's something, Michael, that are they showing us just confirmation of videos that are on YouTube right now? Or are they playing games with us? Or are they going to show us something new that we haven't seen?
Yeah, and actually, I think what they do is they put something out there, typically, and then they'll pull it back. Then they'll put something else out there, and then they'll pull it back. They kind of just use it to acclimate, people. It's kind of like rather than giving them the full force all at once, so you can't drink from the fire hose, so they kind of like dribble it out a little bit, and then they pull back a little bit as well. So this could be, the plan could be in effect for, 2 or 3 years maybe down the road, but then they kind of react as they go as well, I think. It's kind of the way things happen, in any kind of government agency. But I believe Grant Cameron has been mentioning that as well, is that he's been doing this, he's been seeing the same kind of story and same kind of governmental reaction for years and years, and it just seems to be different players every time.
Well, and I understand it seems to be different players. The one thing that does have me concerned is the term advanced aerial threat. Now, I understand that could be any object that is unknown in the skies of the United States. I very much understand that. However, if we go along the To the Stars Academy, or maybe not even so much To the Stars, but the Tom DeLonge way of thinking, all of these spaceships and aliens are evil. We don't want them around. On Joe Rogan, he basically said that we need to put nuclear weapons up in space to protect ourselves from these entities. Yet we have statistics from real people, like the free experiencers from the late Dr. Edgar Mitchell, showing that over 80% of ET contactees, abductees, are having positive experiences. So this is where a lot of people fall into the conundrum of wondering, what the hell can we believe in this field, Michael?
Yeah, exactly. This one thing I'm worried about, of course, with this disclosure coming from the way it is right now, with this whole idea of what they're calling this advanced aerial threat identification program, that they could use this as that kind of an excuse, whether it was warranted or not. They sure could use the fear factor to try to drum up enough support to do what they need to do, and of course that would be something that would be counterproductive, I believe, to like you said, the whole history of this phenomenon as well. So far, for some reason, they haven't decided to come down and take things over and or control us in a certain way. They've been awful patient with us, from what I can gather, when they are able to take out some of our nukes, and stop them from being operational, just without hurting anyone at this point, as far as I can see. But then again, of course, you've got the other aspect of abduction scenarios and the whole thing. So it is a two-edged sword, no matter what we're dealing with.
The whole idea behind it is we're being told on one hand everything is negative, and yet we're being told by real statistics from real people having experiences that it's actually opposite. But if you follow Hollywood, for the most part, let's say one, maybe 2 out of every 10 alien movies is something positive about extraterrestrials. Maybe even 1 or 2 in 20. So do you believe that there is an agenda to try and scare people then into UFOs and aliens being some sort of national threat?
Yeah, well, I think that's, the Werner von Braun idea that this is one of the last-ditch efforts that they need to use to try to control the masses, for sure. I'm afraid that's what could be headed to, in this regard, as far as this, at least this article from the New York Times. It seems to be kind of like slanted in that regard. But then again, there's going to be some interesting questions following up to all of this stuff as well, regarding these positive experiencers out there, and the fact that we haven't been taken over yet, and or matter of fact, in the report itself from the New York Times, it actually mentions that we don't seem to have the capability to do anything about what this phenomena can do. So it's kind of interesting that they're mentioning that. And then they, in 2009, they decided to defund the program. So I don't know. That's kind of contradictory in itself. They decided, they looked into this and they found out, well, there's not much we can do about it. And we don't really know all the details about it, so we're going to defund it. That was kind of a strange mention in the article as well.
So do you feel then that maybe this is an agenda?
Well, I think it is an agenda, but we just don't know which way it's going to go. Obviously, there is an agenda here to get the New York Times to do something that they've been hesitant to do in their entire history. So, yeah, it's interesting to find out who's running the agenda and, in which direction it's going to go, and see how long it's going to take to roll out.
Well, and what I mean by the agenda, and I should have clarified this a little bit more, so I apologize to you in my most profane Canadian way that I can. I'm sorry. But the whole point that I'm asking about an agenda is, do you think this is an agenda by the military-industrial complex to try and keep spin-off technologies private rather than introducing things like free energy to the public, which is going to put basically the entire oil industry out of work?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Now you're starting to follow the money, and that's probably the real bottom line on this whole thing, is that how far can they go with disclosure and not get into those areas of, well, if this vehicle can travel that fast and do these kinds of aerial acrobatics, why can't we develop something that does a similar thing? And or what is the propulsion system that allows them to do this? And why can't we power our houses and grids with it anyway? So those are going to be interesting things, how far they go with the actual disclosure without having to destroy the power structure that's in control and wants to stay in control, I'm assuming.
And I just want to follow up. That question was from Andrew on Twitter, so I didn't get a chance to finish that, but I don't want to seem like I'm stealing questions for my own. That's not very fair. So, Andrew, I do apologize on that one, but let's continue on here in regards to whatever, we're talking about tonight with UFOs. The way that you saw the article, because to me there are so many big question marks, and I've read it now about 4 or 5 times, and every time I read it, I'm reading something differently in that. How many times have you read the article, and are you having the same thing happen where you are seeing different nuances of it each time you read it?
Yeah. Actually, I've got it marked up with a couple of different marking pens and my annotated notes in the margins. So I've probably gone over it at least 3 times myself. And it is kind of interesting the way the thing is put together. Obviously, you've got 3 different writers here that are giving credit on the byline of this thing. So I'm assuming that somebody has come up with some of the history of the background of this article. And then we've got Helene Cooper and Ralph Blumenthal, doing some of the Pentagon work as well. But there is a whole lot of stuff in this article that if you can digest it, it's fascinating to me, because you're actually having a governmental agency, the Department of Defense, feeding information and being allowed to be interviewed by the New York Times, and actually corroborating and confirming certain things, that the fact that there are unidentified aerial phenomena, let's put it that way, that's disclosure in itself. The fact that they've actually captured, or at least have, downed craft that they don't know, well, they actually call them unidentified aerial phenomena, that they've got materials from, and they've got gun footage from F-18s that they're actually showing the public nowadays. It's not the most impressive footage available. I'm sure they're coming out with more stuff, hopefully. But the whole idea that they're actually doing this is just a jaw dropper for me. The fact that we've actually got this confirmation from governmental sources through the mainstream media.
Where does this go from here, in your mind?
I have got to think that the mainstream media now has got to be able to have some kind of a green light to follow up on certain things in this regard. So I don't know whether it's all going to be kept in the hip pocket of Luis Elizondo or the organization that Tom DeLonge has. I'm hoping that it's going to start spreading out, like Peter Davenport mentioned, with some of the other ufologists in the field that can now feel free to come forth and not say I told you so, but actually corroborate some of these stories. Like, for instance, Grant Cameron has got sources that he has not really been able to disclose, and I would think that at one point, folks like him would feel a little bit less reticent to disclose those sources that they have and what they've told them. I think that would be the next step, is to kind of branch out on this disclosure and not keep it in the hip pocket of one organization.
Well, the worrisome part for me, and I guess I look at this because ever since the To the Stars campaign, I've been critical about a lot of the things that they have done, especially with the way they are treating the media. It only seems that they have their couple of favorites, and that's all whom they're talking to, which I think, to me, as a journalist, is a red flag. And you having a journalism career, I'm assuming you would think the exact same way as well. Maybe I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So I noticed in this article, this is splattered into the Stars people. Hal Puthoff is in this article. Chris Mellon, Luis Elizondo. And yet there is no mention of Tom DeLonge. Now, talking to Grant Cameron, he also says they are now starting to shove DeLonge to the side. So I'm wondering, do you think that maybe, just maybe, they feel that they've used DeLonge enough?
Yeah, I think there is a history there of doing that, obviously. Using people to get certain words out and certain leaks made, and then, God forbid, sometimes they just then end up discrediting them as well to keep them quiet and go on to the next disclosure project that they're working on. So I don't know. It's going to be now. Here's the thing with Tom DeLonge. This guy is not unintelligent. So I can't believe that this guy does not know that he could be used and is being used. And I have a feeling that he might even have something up his sleeve as well. So I'm kind of going to be interested to see how things play out with them, like you say, trying to discredit him or dropping him like a rock and going on to some other things. I think it'll be interesting to see how he is savvy enough to kind of get through that himself. And then again, see who else steps forward, because I believe there's other folks out there that will be able to pick up any slack that is left out there as far as disclosure goes.
Do you, how am I trying to phrase this? And I apologize. This sometimes happens in overtime. I call it the time that it is. But do you believe then that people like Dolan, Cameron, Barra, Friedman are being left out on purpose?
I think there's probably a plan to use certain people as point people on this process and this project. Obviously, it sounds to me that there are certain people that Tom DeLonge's organization has solicited and become comfortable with over the last year or two or so, and they are using their contacts to do whatever those contacts want to have done. But of course, that doesn't mean that Tom DeLonge's contacts within the government circles are the only ones out there, whether they're black hats or white hats. There's plenty of other folks out there, I would imagine, that need to have their input into this process. So that would be interesting to find out, is who else steps forward or is pushed forward maybe down the road with more information that doesn't necessarily leave certain people behind, but hopefully branches out and includes more and more people in this process, because it can't be a bad thing to have more and more folks discussing these issues and asking the right questions.
No, and I agree with you, but it just amazes me that they've created, in order to do this, an entire team of ufologists. Maybe is it because you think that they've handpicked the people whom they can trust on a governmental level and on a secrecy level, and that's the reason why, and I don't want to use this term because it sounds so wrong, but they allowed a lot of these gentlemen to quit and join the To the Stars campaign.
Yeah, exactly. That is kind of an interesting conundrum, the fact that these people have been involved in such a long period of time in the government process themselves, and then coincidentally they all get a chance to retire at the same time and or switch careers, and as Peter mentioned, also to skirt their security oaths and mention certain things that you would imagine would not be allowed to be mentioned, and then keep their pensions or whatever funding sources that they are enjoying right now. So that's got to be a semi-long-term plan that's been underway for quite a while, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Preacher has a question. You met Eric down at the Forest Moon Paracon, and he is asking, do you think any effort towards disclosure can succeed without the old-timers like Nick Pope and Stanton Friedman?
I can't imagine that it would. Those folks that have been around a while have connections, and not just connections, but they have histories with people and with the knowledge that they've brought along. And I can't imagine that someone would go over the heads of all of those experienced ufologists and just come out and try to say something that would be totally foreign to what they've been talking about their entire careers. With a person like Stanton Friedman, who's been well over 50 years in this business and been talking with folks in all sorts of government levels and scientific communities and the whole thing. I mean, you're not going to pull the wool over Stanton Friedman's eyes for very long before he's going to start asking the tough questions himself. So I can't imagine that they don't have a plan to bring those folks along as well to really make this thing work, because eventually, whatever disclosure is going to happen, they're going to need a lot of support from the ufological community just to make sure that people don't revolt. People don't go crazy and say, "You kidding me? You haven't told us this in over 70 years, and now you're telling us this, and we could have had free energy, and we could have had free from diseases and all sorts of things for all this period of time." So I think they're going to need a whole lot of support in the background once these things start becoming disclosed.
Andrew has a question on Twitter. He is asking, when disclosure finally comes, a program like Spaced Out Radio could become a major source of information and understanding for the mainstream, including the guests like yourself, Michael. How are you preparing for this possibility if you're called upon?
Well, exactly. I think is in ufology, if we can keep ourselves informed on the thinking and the information that's flowing out there on the internet, on conventions and conferences that we attend, and begin our own networking, which we've done over the years anyway, but just continue that. That's going to be super important for us that have any kind of a knowledge in this field, because in reality, as I've found out, and that people are finding out during this kind of disclosure that's happening in the last few days, there's a whole lot of folks out there that are totally in the dark. They have no clue about this reality, and it is going to, believe it or not, affect them one way or another. And I think that they are going to look to people who have some experience and have some knowledge in this area, just to kind of for comfort, if anything else, but to explain what these things actually mean to them in their daily lives and their families and their business, and how is any kind of disclosure going to change their life? That will be the most important thing. Most people will be asking questions about in the future, I'm sure.
This can go in so many different directions, and we could sit here and literally debate all morning on every single point as to where this is actually going and why now. Where do you think the benefit to the public is on this, Michael?
Well, obviously, some of the soft disclosure has already been happening. I don't know if you've picked this up, but they're actually starting to talk about longevity and health and different medications and medicines that they're discovering. And I have a feeling a lot of this is based upon any kind of retrieve technology or whatever they're coming up with that will actually change people's lives. Who knows? It might be easy to cure some diseases that we thought were fatal. It might be a lot easier for people to live off poverty when they have, an ability to have clean food and a place to live with free energy. So I think those things are really going to be affecting people down the road and not too far off, because obviously we have to figure out something also for the environment than what we're doing, or else no one's going to have a good place to stay or live or eat. So that's interesting to think about, what's actually going to be coming down the road.
Well, the reason why I say that is because in the end, it's about the public. It doesn't matter what the cover-up is. It doesn't matter about what type of technology we have. It's about people who are not believing and whether or not they can handle it. Yeah. Because this is going to scare a lot of people.
Exactly.
Okay, and number two, like I asked you earlier about vindication, I think it has to do with vindication for people who have lost jobs, who have lost friends, family members have disowned them because of their experiences, and they're crying out for answers. Now they have something to go out there and say, see, I told you so. I told you so. Yeah. It's right there on paper. I told you so.
Yeah.
So that's the angle I want to look at here, is in regards to the people.
Yeah. as I mentioned to you on previous occasions, I've actually come up with the idea of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where you're actually going out, and once disclosure happens, there's going to be a whole lot of people asking questions and upset at what has been kept from them. Of course, the disclosure and truth commissions in the past have been set up for, remember the apartheid abuses, the American Indian, Native American abuses. And the idea being that you need to at least acknowledge what wrongs have been done, and figure out if there's any way that they can be either righted or compensated or at least talked about, to try to get over that process of a whole lot of folks being upset when disclosure happens, and then the other hard questions have to be asked and answered. And so the people themselves are going to kind of the ones that are involved in the field are going to have to help the others that have no clue about what's going on in the future and what has been hidden from them. So let's just take religion, for instance. That would be a major event in some people's religious lives if they found out that there were certain other, even people living on other planets. Let's put it that way. Just the simple fact in that regard would put some religions into a tailspin itself.
Well, and that's the point. I mean, you're going to have a bunch of religious leaders go crazy about this. Okay, there's already enough. I know in my community right now, there are people here who believe that anything UFO is a demonic entity going against God. You're going to have people who just absolutely lose it because they just can't handle the idea that we're not alone. You know, and I am, maybe I'm exaggerating or over-exaggerating this entire point, but I do see that if this continues, that there becomes a lot of mayhem. Not everybody is going to be like the Pope, where Pope Francis said, if aliens come down, I will, bless them. And right. We're not just going to see that. There is going to be some detraction to this from the public. And it's going to scare a lot of people when they finally wake up and say, holy cow, we aren't alone.
Yeah, there's always been that debate, can the people handle it? Yes, they can handle it. Maybe not, who knows. But I think in reality what's going to happen is a giant awakening will happen, whether people want it to happen or not, which will be interesting to see how the people in general can react to that. I mean, people have been found to be quite resilient over eons and decades with massive wars and famines and all sorts of adverse effects in their society. But this one is going to be even maybe more all-encompassing because of the mental aspect of the whole mindset that will be necessitated with disclosures of whatever the disclosure is going to be, as far as life on other planets, life here, whether it was seeded here, and all those kinds of issues. And so I think the younger folks will be, the younger generations are more prepared than the older generations, but I wouldn't put it past, I wouldn't write off the baby boomers just yet. The largest confluence of souls to the planet, in the history of our neck of the woods anyway. And so far they've been able to survive all sorts of interesting adverse effects as a group of people. And we'll see what happens when that kind of disclosure hits it's the massive amount of people that are still alive on the planet that call themselves baby boomers.
The danger of it is the public reaction. Do you think that they give us little snippets, like once every couple of months? Do you think that's how it's going to work?
I think that's kind of what they're doing, exactly. And I think what they're probably doing is desensitizing us as well, with these Hollywood films, different kinds of media, and those kinds of things. They need to desensitize and educate, and then kind of like you said, give snippets here and there, make sure people, once the truth hits them, that they are at least in a position mentally that they are going to still go to work the next day, still provide what needs to be provided for their families and for society in general, without just, giving up. So that is a major social engineering feat right there.
But the paradox of it all is if they bring it out that aliens are bad,
yeah,
then you have people, building bunkers in their yard, stocking food, ammunition, more guns than an armory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's everywhere. That's not just in the United States. So I'm not picking on the Second Amendment here. All right?
No.
But this has the potential to explode in their faces, especially if they go along the lines of not being safe, but being paranoid that this is a true evil that could fall upon the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's got to be, I would imagine, in the halls of decision who are trying to figure this out, that there's got to be a fine line that they are treading in that regard. They want to show this, potential threat out there, but they can't mobilize the general public. They can't over-mobilize the general public to take the circumstances into their own hands. Otherwise, they're not going to depend on the military to do it for them. So that would be an interesting conundrum for anybody who is trying to figure out what they're going to do with this disclosure, on how far they need to go and how far they can push it. That's why it's kind of interesting to me why things are happening so quickly, because I just get the feeling that people aren't quite ready yet for the potential disclosure that could happen. And for some reason there seems to be some kind of a deadline out there that they are trying to make for some reason, and things are happening quicker and quicker.
And that goes back to what Andrews just reminded me of about Ronald Reagan's speech at the UN General Assembly about the alien threat uniting humanity.
Yeah, that would be a scary thing for the powers that be. Let's put it that way. A united humanity. So that's obviously a two-edged sword. They can use that as a control mechanism, but they can also push it a little bit too far and have a real problem on their hands if everybody starts organizing together and kind of looking beyond national boundaries, for instance, for some kind of an organization that they could take matters into their own hands. But we're of course thinking of what ifs and all those kinds of things, and I know that going back to our initial thought on this entire evening tonight was the idea that something major has just happened here on this little planet of ours, and I'm so happy to be a part of whatever is going to happen, because I have total confidence in the not just American public, but the worldwide public and in general, in being able to handle these kinds of things that are so massive we can't even think about them, at this point, given our small perspective.
We're down to the final minute and a half with you here, my friend. Please give us a rundown of what's happening with UFO I-Team.
Well, great. Thank you. I just want to make sure that if anybody wants to check out what we're doing as far as the UFO I-Team, they can always go to Facebook, punch in the term UFO I-Team, and the I on I-Team is lowercase. And check us out. We've got videos up there of our various investigations that we're putting on. We're trying to put together a actual television series, a production that people can point to and watch, and it's been fun because we've been going to no matter where we go, no matter almost what evening we go out for sky watches, there's things to be seen and things to record on tape and be able to share. So it's been fun for us. Most of us are all experienced ufologists like yourself. Peter Davenport is one of our sat film consultants. Of course, we've got Dr. Richard Haynes and many other folks that are helping us out as well. So something to look forward to in the future here, hopefully, with the UFO I-Team.
My friend, thank you so much for coming on for the last 2 hours, and please give our regards to Peter Davenport as well. Thank you for lining that up.
Oh, you're welcome. Good job, Dave. Thank you again.
Mike, you hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I also want to say thank you to Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers for coming on for hours 1 and 2. This is going to be a lively topic over the next little while, my friends. So let's make sure that we are open-minded enough to realize that this is an important topic of study. We've all wanted for this. We've all waited for it. Want to say thank you to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal for rocking us in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of SOR, rocking us in and out of every single show. Want to say a big thanks to my fans out there. I'll get to you in a second. Tomorrow night, Ian Holt, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spaceoutradio.com. But to all of you listening at home, at work, in your vehicles, on Facebook, in the SOR Space Travelers, in the Spreaker chat room, you did well tonight. Thanks for crashing. Don't forget you, Twitter, hashtag SpaceOutRadio. You made it a lot of fun tonight because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.